real quick, just so you guys know.
Sure.
Okay.
We'll go to break as soon as we see it.
Okay. I didn't see anything on it. Did Dan send anything on that drainage for
So
the,
there we go.
nothing?
So
Not that I
let's
know
Shoot.
of.
go ahead and break.
Okay.
Okay, whenever you're ready.
All right. We can start now that our CJC director's here. So. I'd like to welcome everybody out to our Iron County Commission meeting this Monday, the 23rd day of October, 2023. Beautiful, beautiful fall we're having out there, and it's going to be a great day. We appreciate everybody's attendance. We're going to start out this morning with a prayer offered by Jared, our IT director, and then after that we'll be led in the Pledge of Allegiance by Sam Woodall.
Our Heavenly Father, we're grateful for this opportunity we have to meet at commission meeting today, and grateful for the service that everyone renders. We ask for a blessing to be upon the county and upon the residents here, that all be well, that they'll be able to continue with the great community that we have and the help that we give each other. We ask thee to be with us and be with our commission and those who are elected, that they'll be able to make good decisions based on the needs of the community. Grateful for the freedoms which we enjoy and for those who are serving in the military, and ask you to bless them and be with them. And we say these things in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
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 I pledge
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. All right. We'll go ahead and approve the minutes. What was the date on those minutes?
The 9th.
For the 9th?
I would move for approval of the minutes 10/9/2023.
Second.
Been moved and seconded to approve the minutes. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you. And then we need to approve the claims for payment from October 9th to October 22nd.
I will move to approve those claims for payment from October 9th, 2023 to October 22nd, 2023.
I'll second that.
Been moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Departmental reports. We'll start with our attorney, Chad Dotson.
Morning.
How you doing?
Then.
Thanks.
Thanks.
Well, I just wanted to put together a little bit of an update since the last time we met. So I ran the numbers from January 1st to October 22nd. We've received 1,114 criminal cases for referral and prosecution since that time. That is compared to 929 cases from the same time period of 2022, 974 cases, same time period 21. It's about a 17% increase where we're sitting at right now. That's been somewhat consistent this year. I've noticed as I've run those and done these reports, we're about 15 to 20% increase in cases. In the last several months since the office reported, there's been a few cases I just wanted to highlight, talk about the good work being done in the office. In June, there was a man, 62-year-old from Enoch, was sentenced 25 years to life for sodomy on a child. The man offended on his granddaughter. The office, our attorneys kind of pushed the envelope a little bit. There was some efforts to try and keep this child from doing an interview with the CJC. We did some investigative subpoenas, fought it out through court, and the court basically said you have to agree to have these kids interviewed. So once that happened, the case was able to kind of go downhill, and we were able to prosecute him successfully. Gerald Allen, another interesting case. A man came from Oregon. He had just finished parole there for a sex offense. He was here for about 8 days. He had a job here and committed another sex offense on his roommate, 19-year-old kid. He was arrested, convicted, and sent to prison. Jorge Medina, another person that we've dealt with several times throughout the years. He was finally sent to prison. He had some child pornography that he was in possession of and was basically dating and having relations with underage girls. So that was something that finally we were able to get convictions on and send him to prison. And then finally, the last case I wanted to highlight from this sheet was a case out of SUU, violent DUI. It was very interesting where this individual, he was driving under the influence and for whatever reason attacked another car, basically kept ramming them at high speeds and caused some serious injuries to the victims. His blood alcohol content was a .170, and he was prosecuted, convicted, and sentenced to prison for his actions as well. In addition to the criminal caseload, of course, Sam's been busy with civil responsibilities, and appreciate him and all he does for the departments and the commission. He stays on top of things, is always willing to dive into new areas of the law and does so with a good attitude. So we appreciate Sammy. We are fully staffed. We hired our most recent legal assistant after Colleen Mason retired, and she's been doing great. She's been here the last 4 or 5 months now. She's a quick study. She was our intern, actually. We hired her. She was a SUU intern. We really liked her, and luckily she came and worked with us, so she's doing a great job. Budget's looking good. I have no concerns there. I think we'll come in under budget again this year, and all should be well. But other than that, any questions that the commission has, any concerns?
What do you charge this guy for ramming somebody when he was drunk? Is that attempted murder, basically? I mean, when
In
you're
this
using the
particular case, it was a felony DUI and then an aggravated assault. You have to prove specific intent to kill, and that probably would have been difficult. So in this case, aggravated assault was a second-degree felony, and then a felony DUI. He was convicted of both of those things. So that's what he ended up being charged with and convicted of. Yeah, very concerning.
Crazy.
Driving around the university, and
Well, that happened in Home Depot, didn't it? There was a death on that one.
that was another one. So that was another case that resolved.
That was a year or two ago.
Yeah, right before I reported last time, I think we were about to go to jury trial. He was convicted. It was 2020. So we went to jury trial in May of this year. He was convicted, sentenced, but he was sentenced to 15 to life. So he'll spend probably 30 plus years, I'm guessing, in prison for murder. That was a murder case. We do have some other murder cases that are likely to resolve. One, there was a gentleman charged with attempted murder, and he died from cancer in the jail this last week. So that case is off of our books. And then we have another case that's a 2020 case set for jury trial in February, and that's one I think the last. No, it's not. Sorry, we had another murder this year, so we have 2 murder cases open and a couple attempted murders still outstanding. But it's good to get those resolved. I had about 6, 7 open at one time, but luckily this year we made some progress there. So
Good.
get those bigger cases resolved.
Get COVID over so that we can move on, right?
Yeah,
That was a big holdup, wasn't it?
Yeah,
when
that
they
was.
shut down.
I mean, those cases move slowly anyways, but that slowed a lot of things down. We're finally getting caught back up.
Yeah.
And in fact, we have a jury trial this week that was an older case that we're getting resolved. Aggravated assault, domestic violence, not one of the homicides, but another one. It'll be good to get to trial and sharpen our tools a little bit. But anything else? Any other questions?
Just
CJC
thank
is doing
you for
good.
everything you do, because you've had great success in
Yeah.
your office.
Great team. I
Really, really, really a good team.
thank God every day for the team we have there. They're awesome, phenomenal folks.
Appreciate
Thank
it.
you.
Chad,
bet.
thank you. Wendy, CJC?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, those are the stats for the year so far, and you can see the previous years. This year so far, we've had 184 child interviews and 37 medical exams, and that graph is there just kind of to show things fluctuate. They go up and down. It would be wonderful if we were at 0 and none of this was happening in our community, but unfortunately that's not the case. And that's why we exist, and to make sure child victims and their families are receiving the support and resources that they need to heal from bad actors in our community. As you may be aware, every time we apply for a new grant, we have to set grant goals. And with that, we have goals pertaining to sharing information about victims' rights, the criminal justice process, just giving referrals to other services such as, maybe Canyon Creek, or we're referring to them to the Family Support Center or things like that. Just advocacy in general, and advocating for medical exams and coordinating within our multidisciplinary team response. The only of those goals broken up by quarter that we are a little short on is information about the criminal justice process. And that is because we've had a lot of courtesy cases or cases that are from treatment centers there's a lot of them in Iron County for whatever reason. And then that means we don't often have like a parent that we are interacting with. We just have staff from them and from that entity. And it's just a little different as far as resources that we give for them, because they usually have, they've got their in-house therapy and all of those things going. Big things going on with the CJC. We just had our groundbreaking last week, and we are so excited. Alex Meisner Construction is doing that building, but we had a really good turnout for that. Lots of mayors, police chiefs, obviously you guys, the commissioners, thank you for coming. Other community members, as well as our multidisciplinary team, and the school board was invited. Everyone I could think of who ought to be included, I tried to include the best we could, and of course it was out there on Facebook as well. But that just was a lovely day. Things went well. It was hot. I was wearing my requisite black and was paying for it that day. But we're just excited for that, and that can't come soon enough. If you haven't been to our current center, I encourage you to come. I'm happy to give you a tour and show you why it is this new facility is so very needed. We also have our new forensic interviewer who is starting in three weeks from today. Cannot be more excited about that. The team, the investigators, both law enforcement and DCFS are really excited about that. It kind of takes that pressure and burden off of them, and they can take better notes during the interview rather than, needing to go back and rewatch it to get the information they need. Things with our contracted therapists going really well, really smooth there. So we're just really happy with the therapists we've contracted with. And also just Hayden Morton, our part-time employee, she's about 3.5 months in. She's doing really well. Should be doing the Victim Assistance Academy. That starts next month. That's part of the 40-hour required training for the state of Utah that anybody who's working as a victim advocate has to have. And Stephanie Rainey, she's always just a rock star, taking care of victims and making sure, we're keeping good records and doing those things really well. The other big thing, our Friends Board is putting on their annual Dancing with the Community Stars, and we're really excited about that. It's November 14th, and the theme is Dancing Through the Decades. And I hope that everybody will come. You can go support your favorite dancer. There should be posters going up around town. But I think that's it. Any questions? Okay. All right.
Keep it up. Keep it up.
Your props are ready. I got those routed out for you. Your stars and circles.
Oh, awesome.
So they're ready to go.
Thanks so much.
I think that, what's her name? Who's handling that? Not Jennifer, but Brooke.
Brooke.
I think she's going to stop picking up. So
Perfect. Thanks so much for doing that.
welcome.
Okay.
Let's see, Justice Court. I don't see Lori here.
She's supposed to be here, but
Well, we'll go ahead and go to. My mind's gone blank. Jaden?
Yeah.
Jaden, gosh. Jaden.
So, I don't have a ton to report on, so I'll be super quick. But over for July through September for last quarter, we served a total of 151 new clients. That's actually lower than last quarter, so I'll take that. I don't know if that's just a glitch in the system or what, but I'll take less new clients. That just means that there's not as much going on. But this last quarter we served 151 new clients. That makes our total clients for the entire year 564 that we've served so far through September. So Primary victimizations that we serve continue to stay the same. Domestic violence is by far the highest crime victimization that we serve. That's followed by assault, and then our child physical and sexual abuse are the most common crimes that we see.
Do the victims reach out to you, or do you call them and ask them if they need help? How does that
We
work?
call them. So both me and Taylor have access to all of the police reports.
Are most of them receptive when you call them?
Most of them, yeah. Some are more ready to receive help than others, but we reach out to them, just let them know that we've read through the report, understand what's going on, and just see what they need help with if they want any help. If they do, then we'll help them with a variety of things. The main thing that we want to do is keep them informed of what's happening. If there's going to be some sort of an investigation with detectives, that's heavily where we're involved through the investigations process. And then once it gets to a point that we know that there's going to be charges filed, then we'll usually hand them off to Jessica, who's out of the county attorney's office. And so we kind of just work together to make sure that's seamless as possible, and they've got support throughout the entire process. So yeah, we reach out to them, and their case is completely decided on what they feel like they need from us. So we'll offer suggestions, but then ultimately they just most of the time tell us what they need. So all of those crime victimizations have gone down. We've kind of seen that downward trend. Domestic violence, we went from having 58 clients last quarter to having 40 this quarter. And then the others weren't as drastic of a change, just within 5 to 10 clients, just a little bit of a downward trend, which again is nice to see. But as far as program updates, I don't really have a ton. And we just talked in August, so there's not a ton new. But kind of as I was just thinking about what to share with you guys, I was just kind of reflecting on different experiences we've had in the last couple months. I asked Taylor Taylor's the one that's housed out of Cedar PD that works for us. But she just kind of sent me a variety of things that stuck out to her as she's been involved, and they've all been centered around just supporting the crime victim through the entire process, whether that's coming in and explaining their options to them, sitting in on a police interview with them, going to protective order hearings. Those can sometimes be scary, especially when you're facing your abuser. So she's done a lot of that, calming people when they've been shaking or crying, doing on-scene responses, making sure they know what's going to be happening at every point of the response on scene. If there's been a death, making sure that they know when the body's going to be coming out, whether they want to be there or not. Those types of things. We have a lot of clients that put a lot of faith and trust in us, which is sometimes heavy to carry, but at the same time super rewarding. So I had a client that came into our office a couple weeks ago, and when I went to see her in the lobby, we probably have 10 plus cases with her. She's just got a really difficult ex-husband that's causing a lot of issues. So, but the first thing I saw her, she just kind of broke down and said, I didn't know where to go, but I knew I could come here and get answers. So we have clients that trust us, and we take a lot of pride in that. So other than that, I think that's all I've got. Do you guys have any questions about our victim services program?
No.
I think so.
Thank you for all you do.
And thank you every time. Thank you. You guys, I mean, I get to work on you. I get to work with you guys on kind of a limited basis here now and then, and it's always nice to see your Taylor show up.
Yeah.
That's a huge burden off the first responders, and yeah, just what you guys do with the victims is amazing. It's way better than the old days.
Yeah. Well, and then we've got just kind of a seamless approach. We, between law enforcement advocates, CJC advocates, and then Jessica that's out of the county attorney's office, it's just everything's taken care of now at every point of the process. And so
yeah, it'd be really hard to fall through the cracks.
we try not to make sure people don't.
Yeah, it's way more difficult to fall through the cracks
Absolutely.
these days than it has been in the past. That's been my experience. It's been awesome.
Yeah, for sure. Okay.
Thank you, Jaden.
guys.
Appreciate it. All right, I guess we'll have to let her know to come next time.
She said she was going to be here, but
Mm.
I'm looking
I
back
wonder
to my
what
email.
happened.
But
That must come up. Well, Commissioner Blake, do you want to go?
Sure.
it's ready.
Um,
Reminder.
all right. I had the opportunity to take a small road trip. The building department and Sam down to Las Vegas. We toured the Boxable factory. Boxable is a company that makes, how they market it is casita dwellings. They're small, about 300 and something square feet, little dwellings they make in their factory. They actually deliver folded up. So they build the house, they build the little house. It's not furnished, but it does come with all the appliances. Everything, appliances and bathroom are all fully functional, and then they fold it up. And they put it on a truck and they deliver it and they unfold it. They've got this hinge system that, so it can actually be delivered on a normal semi truck. It's not, anyway. We've had several building permit requests for those type of structures. Wanted to make sure that they conform with our local building codes and really just get a look at the company so that we know what we're dealing with. When folks want to bring them here and look at, if they meet our frost, our frost requirements, our snow load, our wind load, and those type of things. It's a really cool concept. I hope they can ramp up and meet the demand in the future. It also looks like it may be a really viable option for affordable housing. What were they saying? What they said out the door about $60,000. For basically a studio apartment, but it's
Sounds crazy.
yeah.
What kind of roof does it have?
Well, it comes with a flat roof. It comes just with a box. You can get a truss package that will add that
Alright.
to where it will be able to carry a snow load.
And the flat roofs will hold up in this climate?
They claim they. What was their?
31 pounds, they said.
What's that?
31 pounds. They were having some issue with what?
No, well, so this was the TED, that was a huge discussion. So we toured the factory, we looked at everything, and then we sat down with folks from their company. Sam and I sat on one end of the table and listened to a whole lot of technical speak at the other end of the table. But it was like, okay, what are your roof loads? And they're like, well, we stacked 5 cars on top. And then we hauled a car up on a crane and dropped it on top. They're like, OSHA got mad at us for that. But it withheld.
Not real safe.
It withstood the drop of a car from a certain height on top of the building. And they're constructed out of foam. All the components are engineered foam. They've got,
With some framing, probably.
integrated, they frame them, but it's all these foam panels. It's actually kind of a similar project to what Candor Development does here. Candor doesn't necessarily, construct these little casitas. They build the components and construct larger things. But it was really pretty cool. I mean, it's a cool concept. It would be I think a good option, a good alternative option for folks trying to get into something, or even like the mother-in-law casita. That's kind of the concept that it's designed around, or the
Or a rental for behind your house,
Yeah.
because we have allow that now.
yeah, couldn't remember the term for that, but the access
Auxiliary
yes,
what is it?
Free dwelling unit?
yeah,
Yes,
is
that's
it the
it.
ADU?
Yes, yeah.
ADU.
Yes. So anyway, it was really interesting. I think it was well worth the trip.
Like I said, I have to see it to believe anything.
Yeah, it
It's
was.
got cabinets, appliances.
Everything.
It's got basically on one you go in, and on one side it's got cabinets. It's got a full size refrigerator. It's got a stove. It's got kind of a wraparound counter. It's got a dishwasher, and there's a bathroom with a full size tub with. I mean, really kind of a full size smaller bathroom. Then on the other side it's just blank. And that's the side they fold in.
Is it designed to go on slab on grade?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay.
Goes on slab on.
So did they did Terry say anything about what it would cost to set one of those up? I mean, in addition to the 60,000.
They had all of those. They had all of those.
Do they set
costs.
them on a cement
Slab on grade? Yeah,
then?
they'll do a slab on grade.
Mm-hmm.
They require a plumbing hookup, an electrical hookup, but that's all. I mean, it's all plug and play, basically.
All ready to go.
All ready to go. They're vented. There are some questions here, and there probably have to be a little bit of additional building or modifications. All the components come out the side of the house. They're not necessarily underground below the frost line. There'd have to be some kind of an insulated box, something
Maybe a heated box.
built around that to reach our standards. But they really had a good discussion of what things that they could change. They actually had a few changes in the works to a little better venting and things like that they were already incorporating. But no, it was pretty cool.
Got to see it.
Yeah. Well, they welcome tours.
Let's go.
You go down there and and their facility's massive. It's like 3 massive warehouses. They're in the middle of installing all this automation. Anyway,
Where are they sending them to? Did they say? All over the country or
all over.
just
Well,
locally or?
yeah, all over. They've got orders. They've actually got orders all over the world.
That's interesting.
And so, but they put you in a golf cart, super handy. You have a tour guide, and they drive you through the whole facility. You got a helmet and a vest. You can actually purchase the helmet and the vest on your way out if you'd like a souvenir. They've got a little gift shop. We didn't buy anything,
Wow.
but no, they're really cool. If they can get ramped up, they're just in the process of ramping up to be able to try and meet their demands. But
Good.
it's a cool concept.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So, I mean, hopefully a viable option moving forward for folks. Ken and I met with a company, Got Safety, and filmed a bunch of informational things regarding the jail and the bond. That's a private company that reached out that wanted to help us disseminate correct information. That should be forthcoming. We had a town hall meeting in Newcastle. Again, we talked about jail and bond. That was the sheriff and I, John, Luke, Shalon, and Mike Gibbs met with folks out there, and we had every town hall meeting we've had great discussions. It's really nice to meet in smaller formats and be able to really talk one-on-one and answer questions. It's been really good. And then we did that in Newcastle. John swindled me somehow into cooking for the courthouse barbecue, and that turned out really well. John's potatoes were fantastic, and it's kind of fun to be able to cook and say thanks to folks that work so hard.
I was in Pennsylvania. I'm sorry.
Yeah, you were out of town. I don't remember what your excuse was, but
I
you
had
missed
something.
you missed a good dinner.
I know.
It was good.
I had something else right afterward that I couldn't get back to.
That's fine. Well, and so we basically just threw all the dirties in the back of John's truck, and then we went to Paraguna and had another town hall meeting
Oh,
immediately following the barbecue. So, again, it was really a good conversation. Attended the airport board, really looking at strategies to increase travel in and out of Cedar City, as well as improve airline schedules, flight schedules, whether that be with SkyWest. It is with SkyWest. We're also looking at strategies to attract a new carrier of some sort.
Movement on an early flight.
Not yet.
It's a big thing.
One thing that the airport's doing, though, that's going to help move forward in the future, they're redoing their waiting area, the holding area, the TSA holding area. Now it's serviced by one bathroom and like 20 chairs. That's going to expand, I think, to be able to hold 150 people. It's quite a major expansion. That's forthcoming really quickly. The funding's all in place. Everything's ready to go there. I spent last Saturday, not a couple days ago, but the Saturday before, with Maria and the crew over here in Parowan at the Parowan Fall Fest, which was the same time as the eclipse. My job was to walk up and down the street and hand out eclipse glasses to folks. It was interesting. There was there were several different people there that were there for the Fall Fest and had no idea there was an eclipse. They're like, "Why do I need eclipse glasses?" And I'm like, well, look through them and look at the sun. And they're like, "Holy crap, what's that?" I don't know. They were under a rock or something. That was good. We've had budget meetings this last couple of weeks. We've all three spent a lot of time looking at spreadsheets and budgets. We had another in-person jail design meeting, which we have quite frequently. Following this one, I was able to take folks from Layton Construction and Babcock Designs and introduce them to the folks at BZI. Whether that turns into something beneficial for our project, or I think it was just a really good introduction for a company like Layton and an architects like at Babcock to be able to see what BZI's capabilities are as far as design and production. That I think is going to be mutually beneficial to both sides of that. I don't know whether that'll translate into something here locally, or if it's just a good introduction.
But they were impressed.
Yeah, they were.
What an impressive tour.
Ed and Rob both were like, "Ooh, wait a minute, this is
Something we could do.
this is
could
like, ooh,
use."
this is a new way to look at design," and it was pretty interesting. We had Restaurant Tax Board this last week. 2024 grant applications are coming in, or will be coming in for the 2024 grants. We'll be able to award those grants to move forward with tourism and that type of thing. It's always a good program. Had a town hall meeting sponsored by the Presbyterian Church the other night. It was really well attended. Again, had a great opportunity to just talk with people one-on-one, and it was really good. The Utah Inland Port, they've got a new guy in their organization. His name's Jaime Hernandez. I was able to meet with him the other day and just give him a kind of a welcome to Iron County, and these are our resources in Iron County, and introduce him around to some folks. It was good. We had our Children's Justice Center groundbreaking that Wendy talked about. It was super successful. We're really excited about that. And this coming week, Wendy doesn't know about this yet, I don't think, but we need to figure out a day this week to meet with Alex, with IT, and we basically need to figure out the costs that are not included in the construction bid, figure out what those needs are moving forward, and what we're going to do about that. So we're going to meet this week sometime and kind of try and get those things so that we can know what to budget for. So that's it. That's all.
Okay, thank you. Marilyn?
I hope you got that catch on camera, because that was pretty
That was
spectacular.
I was
Well, it's
texting somebody.
Yeah, I wanted to thank Wendy for the groundbreaking for the CJC. It was really nice. There was a lot of people there. Like she said, it was warm, but it was very nice, and you could hardly get that many people parked up in there. But we're excited about moving forward on that. We have the road department is going to do some trades with Enoch to help with that facility, and we're going to move forward on those in the next year or two, and pay for that ground that way, which is always a good thing if you can trade between entities that way. And I think the location, I don't know whether everybody knows where that is, but it's a great location. It's south of the ball field in Enoch, and it's kind of hidden away back behind some trees. It's all fenced, and it's going to be a really, really nice facility. I finally got to see the floor plan, and that was exciting. I got that sent to me. Like Mike said, we were in budget hearings. We've kind of our staff coming in have been very conservative, and I just want to say how much we're so appreciative of. We asked them to cut 5% out of their budgets, and they've been very willing and good to do that this year. Like Mike said, we still talking about the jail every week. We're just about to a point where we're through the design and just ready. If the bond passes, then we can go forward. If not, we'll be at a good spot where we can hold until we can go forward with it later. We talked about the site plan a lot with Platt and Platt, with Michael Platt, and that was interesting to get some of those things worked out. The pods, they talked about pouring the pods right there, using local workers and cement companies to be able to do the pods right on, which will help our economy also. On the 18th, they had a belt route presentation by Kimley and Horn. That was interesting. We've been on this study for a year or so, and talking a lot about the intersections and how they will look, whether we do roundabouts, whether we do, stoplights. On a belt route like that, they hate to stop traffic, but sometimes just slow it down, and that and there's been a few areas where we've needed to realign to make the properties that we do buy not totally to where we can't, they can't build on each side of those, so that's been a good thing too. I think that's all I have. Mike talked about most of all the other things pretty good.
How do you think I feel by the time I
I know.
That's the best part about
That's
being
a-
the chair.
it is.
Everybody else covers
Everybody else
everything. You don't really have to say a whole lot. It's like, yep, I did a lot of that stuff too. Have a nice day.
ditto all that. Last week, I had a meeting with Paul Monroe and Mayor Green. We continue to look for areas where we can recharge more water that comes down. Everybody says that we're going to have another good winter, and we're always looking for more options. It's interesting. You hear from people that say, well, we don't want the water in Quichapa. We don't want it here and there. Well, those are the low spots where the water has flowed for millennia, and we'll get into that. That's on the agenda for the next meeting. But we're meeting with some major stakeholders in the valley in regards to gravel pits, where we might look at options for them to move to other areas and let us use existing pits. These pits, when you talk about recharge, these pits that we used to put water in, they took 50 years to create. You just can't go dig a pit and recharge a lot of water. You're using existing pits that took a long time to create, and we've been fortunate in this valley to have corporate sponsors help us and be very cooperative, and we're grateful for that. But that was a good meeting. We'll continue to move forward and have further talks. On a kind of a side note, and I was gone for this. I was out of town to a wedding back east, but the Happy Hat Factory had their annual open house. It's very successful. That's an organization that I've been involved with for 25 years. back when Charles Cooley was alive. He was the founder, and Donna Cooley was, him and his wife Donna founded the Happy Factory, and it's a place where we take wasted wood from. Originally years and years ago donated wood, but now the door shop in town, Timberline Cabinets, donates their scrap wood, and they make toys for needy kids around the world, and it's really a neat thing. We have lots of people who are retired that are bored, and they can come make sawdust, and it was interesting. For years we had there's one they made right there. Yep. So
This was for the Centennial
that's for the
Railroad.
yeah. And I don't know what they're up to now. I think probably 1,700,000 or 800,000 toys that's been made. And these are hardwood toys. They're quality toys, but it's been a neat thing. They've kind of gone from having a gala every year to an open house where people can come see the factory and touch it, feel it, see it, and it's been kind of a neat change. And so that was very successful. It's a great fundraiser, and the community's always been very supportive. 5 county meetings. I had those this last week. Those are always good. We have this Board of Health. We have behavioral health, and then we have our steering committee meetings and talk about how we can cooperate within 5 counties in southern Utah to make things happen. One last thing I wanted to mention. I mentioned to Wendy that we had some props. For a lot of years we've made props, and I just want to give a shout out to a supplier for my son's company now, Sierra Forest Products. They're one of our major suppliers, but when I call them and ask them for material, they always donate. We did a service project over in Halchita. It's over by Monument Valley for the Native Americans over there. The Rotarians built cabinets for that. We remodeled a community center over there, and we built about probably $25,000 worth of cabinets, and we had the Rotarians down. We cut them and edge banded them, but then they came down and put them together, and we hauled them over and installed them. But this company donated all of the material for that. They donated the material for Wendy's Dancing with the Stars. We had material we needed for the parade, the Spirit of 76 parade. They donated material. They never charge us, and I just want to give a shout out to them so you have a Salt Lake company who's giving locally to our community, and I just want to give them a shout out. I don't know that we finished this early for a while, so this is good. 9:45. We'll go ahead and take a 15-minute break, and we'll
I don't think we ever
resume.
have.
Is any other things you guys have missed? That's all I have, so we'll go ahead and take a break and start at 10. So, thank you.
We're live.
Hey.
Oh, I think is this Ruth?
He's funny, dude.
We ready? Are you?
Just trying to get the. Oh, we're getting it.
I think you're good to. Should we have him start?
We good?
Yeah.
All right. I think we got things worked out, hopefully. We will go ahead and resume our 10 o'clock meeting. And we'll go to agenda item number 1, public hearing, discussion, and possible approval of proposed amendments to the Iron County Transportation Plan, study areas 3 and 4. And 3 is north of the Mid-Valley Road in Enoch City, and 4 is south of Mid-Valley Road and between Enoch and Area 5. And this is was a positive recommendation from the Iron County Planning Commission. Read.
For some reason wasn't thinking this was the first item, so sorry about that.
We can probably switch them if it's easier for you. Read if you're
All right.
okay.
He's got it.
Got it here. I just wanted to get this for your benefit to show this. Sorry about that. How come I can't copy that? For heaven's sakes.
Perfect.
Sorry about that. I do need that mouse. You don't have a couple batteries for that mouse, do you? I think that's what the problem is. That this keyboard is not letting me.
I wondered where you was, Richard. I wondered where you was.
Thank you. That will make it a little easier.
Oh, it's treasury.
Yeah. I see the picture, yeah.
Perfect. Thank you. That's a lot better. Oh, it's not going to let me go there. Okay, never mind. It's not going to see if it, no. Okay, sorry about that. We'll go back. I'll just show you. I had this so that we could use it just in case. This morning we are evaluating on the Transportation Master Plan areas 3 and 4 that the Planning Commission has made a recommendation on. Area 3 is everything just kind of in the north end of Cedar Valley, north of Mid Valley Road. The Planning Commission has looked at this a couple of meetings and had a public hearing and made a couple of small modifications to Area 4. Area 3 stayed kind of where it is. This is the one that really these are the main transportation routes, and to remind you that this and the public that a transportation master plan isn't a capital facilities plan. It isn't now we're going to build this road and here's the schedule and here's how much it's going to cost. The master plan is simply to identify where the corridors are that we want to preserve in the future, so that as development occurs, then we can retain rights of way and know that when the demand is there and there's enough growth that we know where they're going to be, and we're preserving those as development occurs. What you do from the master plan is then you develop a capital facilities plan, identify what the priorities are, when they'll be built. That's how you establish impact fees for most communities that have them. They first have a master plan, then they develop a capital facilities plan that says, okay, these are our next projects and this is how much it's going to cost to build this and this is the priority, and then they start accruing money for that. This is just the first step in that process, and to make sure that we are preserving and not allowing development to take away our opportunities for transportation. And one of the major first things we did, of course, was the belt route a number of years ago to do that. And I can't tell you how that's really helped identify and preserve properties for a lot of developments that now we can preserve that corridor. And because we have it adopted, it's part of our transportation master plan, then each of these, we know what the widths are going to be. We kind of know what we need to do as development occurs to preserve those and make sure we have them for the future. So that's what this is. As you're aware, we kind of started down on Westview Drive and did area 8 and 9 and 8A, and we made a special area for that, and we've done area 6 and 7 and 5 and 6. 4, and now we're on 3 and 4. So we did 6 and 7, 8 and 9, and now we're kind of working down through the valley. So these are just your major carriers. The main ones, the reds are 100-foot right-of-way. So the belt route is the dotted, and the dotted lines mean that there's nothing there now. The roads have not been built, or the right-of-way is not necessarily acquired. Some of them have some development on them, but they haven't been built out to the full extent. So that's why the belt route is in the red as a 100-foot right-of-way, but it's a dashed line because it hasn't been built. And so this is area 4. This plan should be available very soon to the public. Kendall is working on making it public once we get some of these refinements made. But down on the left-hand side, when you get online and you access this, you can just scroll down to area 3, area 4, and on the left-hand side, when you click on one of these, it has a number associated with that road. And then, so this one happens to be 302 for Lund Highway. When you click on that, it'll bring up a little box that tells you how wide it is, what the right-of-way width is, some of the issues related to that. Yeah, speed limit, possible speed limits, whether it's already built, whether it's, what its current status is. Maybe it's a dirt road now and it needs to be paved. So we're adding that information in as we go. So this is area 3, and then area 4 is just south of that, between Minersville. Here's Minersville Highway right here off the right-hand side of the map. And so we've already done this area over here, and now we're just looking at, here's 3,000 north, Bulldog Road here as it, turns. We had an alignment that made it go over through here on an older draft that came out of the study that was done. What's the name of them? Avenue, thank you. Avenue Consultants that did the study kind of said, let's reroute that. And looking at the type of traffic it has and what it would do to these property owners, the Planning Commission opted to just leave this the way it was here. So this is area 4. I don't know if you have specific questions to those areas or any of the roads that are on those. I'd be glad to answer those. And Rich is here also to be able to address those. Rich has been working more closely with Kendall and getting this information on, numbering the roads. Again, like, 4,000 north here is 403. If you go right and click on that, you can see here that there's something, built between certain sections, but not other sections. And so, 3,000 is a good example. You're really familiar with 3,000 until it gets to 2,300 west, but then there's nothing going on west of there. And so it'll go up to 3,200, which isn't built either. So those are just examples of what's there and now what will be built when we try to add to it. The colors, I mentioned the red is 100-foot right-of-way. The green is 75, and the purple is 66 foot right-of-ways for the future plan. So with that introduction, I think we can have the public hearing unless you have specific questions.
I don't have any questions. We saw this at Planning Commission. Good job. So we'll go ahead and, regarding item number 1, we'll go ahead and open the public hearing for anyone that'd like to speak. If you can state your name and
Good morning, Rose Clement. I have a question here. What is the purpose of the transportation plan, really? What is the need? What is the growth? Give me some background and help me understand why we need to do this plan.
well, it's to look ahead so that we have, like, for instance, the belt route that we have. Are you familiar with the belt route that goes from Highway 56 down to Hamilton Fort?
Yes.
So if we plan ahead far enough with the traffic congestion we are experiencing now, that could be from a lack of planning from years past. And so we're looking forward, and Reed and Rich can weigh in, but we're just looking forward so that property owners, developers, when they come in, they know where these routes are going to be. Like the route that goes from Highway 56 over to Enoch, we determined that probably 4 years ago, maybe 5. When I was first on the commission, we hired an engineer to lay out these roads so that landowners, developers can work around us. Because once you allow a solar farm or a development and you later on want to run a belt route, it's very difficult. You're buying houses, tearing them down. It's better to plan far ahead and establish so that when developers come in, they say, oh yeah, we got to work around this. And it's just wise planning for the county. So that we're looking ahead. We're probably looking ahead, what do you think, 30 years?
30 to 50 years.
30 to 50 years. And
Is that under the Vision Iron County plan?
is it under the Vision Iron County?
Mm-hmm.
I
Is it part of
mean,
that?
it's- I-
No,
I
that's a
don't-
completely separate organization. But we do have,
Is it tied into our county?
well, with Vision Iron County, yeah. So the short answer is that Vision Iron County and Iron County as an entity are two completely separate things. But there are representatives, including myself, including Reed Erickson, that are involved with Vision Iron County. So completely separate entities, but have representation from all of the entities, including all the municipalities in the county.
When
What
I
did-
gave
Such.
my commission report, I talked about Kimley
Today?
and Horn today.
That wasn't on YouTube.
Oh, it wasn't?
I couldn't pull it up. I was trying to watch it this
Oh,
morning,
shoot.
and it just
Sorry.
came up after 10.
Anyway, we had a meeting the other day with them, and it's a study that they are doing to help us align that belt route to make sure, as we go forward, it's going to be more successful with property acquisition or the alignments, the intersections, that type of thing. So.
Back to your Commissioner Blake, your comment about the vision. Where did that come from? Where did that generate from?
Vision Iron County.
Mm-hmm.
It's an organization. It actually stemmed from several years ago. There were a number of different organizations.
Such as?
Well, I'm trying to give me a minute.
Okay. Sorry.
So, for instance, there was and this all works through the Chamber of Commerce, through the Cedar City Chamber of Commerce. There were several different organizations, an organization through National Association of County for the Arts, Downtown Redevelopment in Cedar City. There's these different organizations that looked, when you look at each of their mission, there's all these separate organizations trying to attain some of the same goals. At that point, there was everybody was kind of consolidated, and it was initially called
Vision 2050?
Well, Vision 2050. That has since morphed into Vision Iron County.
Correct. What I see.
So that's the origin of Vision Iron County. It's actually a separate 501c3 organization with a board and a chair, a director that collaborates.
But I'm still not clear on how that came about.
I
know it's been time.
It's
been up there for a while. So
That's probably not really.
I can't tell you specifics of exactly how that came about. Again, we're represented there, but that's not an organization that we control.
But you do use them for your changes or your studies in the Iron County?
No, not specifically.
Totally separate.
Okay. Anything else that anybody wants to input?
Are you on that board?
No.
Are you involved with that?
No.
Yeah, it's
You just look like
totally
you have something you
separate.
want to add. That's why I was just wondering.
No.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Any other comments?
Sitting too long. My name's Patty Truax,
Public
and
hearing.
I was here last meeting. Anyway, I just wanted to add something to that. And you all know that until 2008.
Are you talking? Is this specific to this transportation study?
No.
Okay. If you've got a public comment, we'll have time for that in a little
I thought
bit.
that's what we were in.
No, we're actually just doing, and that's.
For the transportation.
Yeah, we're just doing a public hearing for this transportation plan. So, if there's any other comments regarding the
That's number
transportation-
3 on the agenda
So-
that you'll be able to get back up.
And that's the last comment I did. That it kind of went from the transportation plan and morphed into the Vision Iron County. So I was a little, but anyway, we're just talking about the transportation plan right now. So, if there's no other comments, we'll close the public hearing. And
Does the commission have any questions or any specific roads that they wish to look at?
I think you guys.
No.
Oh, they hashed it over pretty good in planning and zoning. I think
Yeah,
it's been
this
good.
is just a little bit of, to give a better background of why we're doing this. In answer to your question, why are we planning? We had a number of different evaluations in trying to balance the ability to have access to properties and still move traffic around. And this graph on the right shows the line between having access, increased access, and increased mobility, and the type of road that you use to do that. And so as we studied Cedar Valley and looking at the growth projections in terms of population and where employment centers are and where people live, how you move traffic from one area to another. And so each road that existed now had an assigned level of service. So the idea was that the road was graded from A to F on how well it performs. And then they went out each year to in the study, there's more availability, but it shows how each road was rated in 10 years, in 20 years, in 30 years, based on the population projections for and the growth projections for employment and where housing is going to be. And so a lot of the roads in 8 years, Westview Drive, for example, was an F. It would fail, and their fail was based on rating how long you had to wait at intersections, how many accidents currently are occurring on there, and then projection of accidents based on the amount of traffic. And the road capacity, and so it would fail in 8 years. So the idea was, we know we need to make improvements in that area. Other roads failed in 20 years, other in 30 years. And so this was an opportunity to evaluate and rate each major road and say, how do we help that situation? How do we make it so in 30 years we're not sitting here twiddling our thumbs saying, what do we do about all this traffic? And then having to, as you mentioned, try to make new roads where development has already occurred, and we're tearing down houses and trying to acquire property at a much higher rate. And so this is good planning. It's good thought for the future, and trying to make provisions for our growth that we know is coming in the future. So appreciate the comments and any questions. Otherwise, I think we're recognizing the Planning Commission did look at this and make a couple of changes from what staff had presented and what was in the study from Avenue Consultants. The Avenue Consultant study, I might just mention quickly for the benefit of the public, that was an in-depth transportation study that Cedar City and Enoch got funding from UDOT for, and the county participated in. And now we're taking that information and say, okay, once that traffic comes out of the cities, where does it go in the county? We don't want it just dumped on us and not being able to plan for that, and coordinating with the cities in terms of designs for certain roads. And Westview Drive was a good example. You know, it's off of Highway 56, it's in the city, then it goes into the county for a little bit, then it goes back into the city, and then it goes back into the county by the time it gets down to Hamilton Ford. So we coordinate with Cedar City and Enoch in trying to plan and identify, you know, how these roads should look, what their width should be, what the standards for the roads be, where curb and gutter and sidewalk is appropriate, where it's not. And we're working with their engineers and people to try to coordinate those efforts so that we have a good plan going forward for all of the municipalities and the county to help coordinate that growth. That's all I have.
Okay, thank you. Is there any other discussion?
No. Not
Entertain a
for me.
motion.
I would move for approval of a proposed amendments to the Iron County Transportation Plan, study areas 3 and 4. 3 is north of Mid-Valley Road and Enoch City, and 4 south of Mid-Valley Road and between Enoch and Area 5.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Thank you, Reed. Number 2, public hearing, discussion and possible approval of Iron County Ordinance 2023-5, providing for amendments to the Iron County Code, Chapter 15.12, flood damage prevention, relative to Quichapa Lake development regulations. Recommendation from the Iron County Planning Commission.
Thank you, Commissioners. I want to just do a brief overview of what the Planning Commission has been dealing with. Some of you have attended a lot of those meetings that the Planning Commission has had and know that we've had this on the agenda for a couple of years, trying to figure out what the best avenue is and how to really address some of the concerns with flooding at Quichapa and what we do about it in the future. I'm just to show some aerial photos, and you can see the date both on the upper left-hand corner and some of them on the bottom right. They're not always the same date, and so even though it may show on the upper left, this is a 1993 photo, aerial photo. It was a 93, but some of them I'll show in a little bit and show why they're different, and you have to look at both dates in order to determine what the date of the photo really is. But this is simply a quick overview to show the fluctuation. That's really all I want to show, is how high it can go, how low it can go. And we've had a lot of people over the years come in and want a building permit and say, you know, I've owned this property for 5 years and there's never been water on it. Then the next year it's under 2 feet of water. And then, it goes dry for a few years. And Rich was just telling me this morning, he was at a conference over the weekend, and they said that that really the high water cycles about every 3 years. And you can kind of see on some of these images it follows 3 to 4 to 5 years depending on what year. This is a photograph from 2004. You can see it's a little drier. And then 2006, we don't have a photograph from 2005, but you can see The white ring around the green is what the high water mark was for 2005, pretty close.
And they raised the road that year, right?
That's
The year
raised
before,
Highway 56.
what, 4 feet?
3 or 4 feet,
Right.
yeah, because the water was going over the road. That was in 2006. Here's a 2010, so 4 years later, and you can see how much it had gone down. And then 2011, the next year, it's almost up as much as it was in 2006. And then in 2015, it's way down. And then in 2019, it's up again pretty good. And then we don't have any changes in photography since 2019. So even though at the top you'll see it goes from 2023, it's exactly the same photograph from 2019. It's because the side pieces changed, and so there were updates to portions of the map, but they weren't to every section. So you can see in that map there's 3 different dates of photographs on that map. And so you just want to make sure when you're looking at aerial photography, especially on Google Earth, that you move your mouse to the exact area you're looking at, and then you look in the bottom right hand corner and you can see the date of that actual photograph. But again, the point was to just say we recognize that it changes quite a bit from year to year, and it may be 3 or 4 or a half a dozen or a dozen years, and then all of a sudden it'll go up and then it'll go down again. As a result of that, in 2014, the county proposed the map on the left to be the flood map. The FEMA flood map from 1986 is the one on the right, because that's where the water was at that time. And so we petitioned in the updates to the FEMA maps in 2014 that it be based on the high water mark on the left. And FEMA is in the process right now of redoing all of the flood maps for Iron County. And so it's a lengthy process. We probably won't see anything for several years. This is a map that was prepared, and I wish I had a larger portion of it, but this was what they called the inundation line that was developed by U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service to show which they did an evaluation of vegetation type, soil type, try to determine when water is in an area that they would call an inundation or a wetland area. And that ended up being what we call the inundation line. And this was the provisional build area, which they took the 2005 high water and laid it over their development plans for some of the improvements that they wanted to make at Quichapa. We had LIDAR available that we've used, and then they took our ownership plats and our zoning maps and then laid those all together to develop this map. And so this map with the dark blue area in the middle is the no-build zone. That's the area that always has water in it from year to year. It's rare. There may be a year, once in a while, that it dries out a little bit, but most years it has water. The medium blue color is the inundation area. That's the one that the U.S. Fish and Wildlife determined based on vegetation and soil types and aerial photographs that has water in a large majority of the time. And then the light blue area is the provisional build area. That's the area that was the 2005 high water mark, where we know in recent history we have documentation that's where the water line was. And so having that information with the new available LIDAR, we had, a latitude and longitude. We had spatial relationships for the high water mark, but we didn't have the elevations because they weren't taken at that time. And so based on the location of that line, then we could overlay that with the LIDAR that was available now that is very accurate and could determine an elevation. And so that high water mark followed the contour of 5460. That's the elevation that we determined is the provisional build area, which means that if you're going to build in that area, you can build a residence, but you have to make sure that your foundation or your floor height, finished foundation, is higher than 2 feet higher than what that 5460 is. So you can build in that area with an elevation of 5462. That your road has to be built to that elevation, your wellheads have to be above that elevation, your sewer has to be able to accommodate to that elevation, your septic. And so this is a summary of the regulation based on each of those areas. The one that we've done the most change in recent work on is the setback area that we had a little more discussion in the Planning Commission, trying to determine, because we know that the groundwater also this year was higher than what it had been in previous years. And we wanted to make some determinations on how that was affected, or what we do as a result of that, because there was some concern about going out beyond the no build or the provisional build area, the 5460 elevation, knowing that that water moves through the groundwater, and it can still float a septic even though it's 200 yards away from that high water mark, because it may only be 5 or 6 feet deep or 4 feet deep. And so based on several examples, we determined that 5466 was the area that we wanted to use, with a vertical separation of 500 feet, or excuse me, a horizontal separation from the high water mark, which means that if they're in that area, they can still build a home, they can still have a basement. They just need to do a dewatering plan for the basement or the crawl space if the finished elevation of the basement or crawl space is 5466, and their soil evaluation through a modeling indication on the groundwater, where you can see where the groundwater is. When you dig a hole, you can see what the depth of that was. And so if both of those things are in effect, then they can do a dewatering plan and still do their basement in that area. So that's the last setback area. Otherwise, the provisional build areas and the inundation areas and no build areas have remained the same since that time. So that's really a rundown. The ordinance now has regulations for each of those 4 areas: A, the no build area; B, inundation area; C, the provisional build area; and the D, setback area. Those are just the more detailed description of this summary table and where it is in ordinance. Also, just on the last week, added some language in based on the concern that we recognize, and we've had a lot of discussion about this at the Planning Commission, that sometimes the maps just fill in areas between elevations, and there may be a little peninsula or something that is a higher elevation that runs into that no build area, for example. So the first paragraph there simply states that any map irregularities may exist where actual surveyed elevations differ from the official floodplain map. In such cases, the use and building regulations may be applied based on the actual elevations rather than the mapped designation areas. So it's important to note that on the map, there is a mapped area, but there is also for the regulation an elevation. So in the inundation area of 5450 to 5453, if you surveyed in your provisional build area, for example, that says it's 5453 to 5360, but you can show by survey of what elevation your property is, then rather than being restricted to the regulations of the inundation area, you could use the regulations of the provisional build area if you can show that your elevation is actually above 53. Because of a survey and because of mapping difficulties of taking topography and following a line all the way around, not accounting that there might be areas within that may vary just a little bit. So that was, I think, an important consideration that we wanted to make sure people recognize their ability to still do that if they can show that by elevation that they're not in that elevation, even though the map may show them in that area.
What's the elevation on the top one? I can't read it.
5450.
50. Okay.
5450.
So if you really, just as an example, just to show how flat it really is out there, I mean, you're only talking from the no build to the
Inundation is only 3 feet.
It's only 10 feet.
Oh, yeah.
50, right?
Total.
Which is
yeah.
about the height of this room.
Right.
Here.
Yeah,
So-
clear from the bottom
Bottom of the lake
elevation level
to-
up to the no build.
So it's pretty
Or
flat.
to the, yeah. And that's over a long space, so it is very flat out there. The other thing I wanted to just point out as an addition to the ordinance is part of the challenge that we had in the 2005 flood, and we got sued because we, said we were told that you shouldn't have allowed somebody to build there. Why didn't you not allow them to build there? We don't want to get caught in that same issue, and it happens with a lot of different things. Is we can try to protect the public the best we can, but we can't regulate to the degree that that they can beyond the unknown. We're best. And so this paragraph essentially says we're using best available data. We can't ensure that you won't still get flooded even if you follow these regulations. In 5 years from now, we may have an elevation instead of 5460 that goes to 5465. We don't know that based on the storms and the amount of snow that we get and the amount of runoff and the amount of summer rains. We just don't know what's going to happen. So this simply says that, we cannot ensure, even though you follow these regulations, that you won't incur some flood damage or water accumulation in your basement or on your property, just because we said, based on what we know now, these are the elevations we're going to use for regulation. That's what that paragraph says. So those were the additions beyond what the Planning Commission made recommendations on. Otherwise, the Planning Commission made a recommendation to approve the ordinance as established. Otherwise. I just wanted to point out that we know, and a lot of the concern is the contention that we're putting water in Quichupah. We're putting more water in Quichupah than should be going to Quichupah. And that's really a hard thing to discuss and understand because it changes so much from year to year based on where the water is. We know that the sources of Quichupah flows are from the Woodbury Split since 1910. When the Woodbury Split was put in place, 40% of Coal Creek went towards Quichupah. We also know that Church Canyon feeds that and probably got more water out of Church Canyon this year than we've had in recent history. Even in 2005, we didn't, I don't think, get as much water out of Church Canyon than we got this year. More came out of Coal Creek, but I think out of Quichupah, certainly more this year than what we've seen for a long time, and Church Canyon. But we also know that Canary Creek used to actually provide more water than it does now to Quichupah, and that there could be changes there that bring some of that water back. And Quichupah Canyon, of course, is a major contributor, especially this year. But then there's storm drain that comes from all directions, from the north that we haven't even talked about and goes across Highway 56 and fills in on the north side, as well as other stuff on the south, and certainly from the east side. And as we see more and more development, and that's a concern that we have and want to try to address and plan for. And in fact, we had a conversation with Cedar City the other day saying, every rooftop that develops and every road that gets built increases the flow, increases the runoff. And we need to do something about that. We can't just assume that because Quichupah is the lowest elevation in that part of the valley that the water can continue to go there. We don't want to increase the water that naturally went there, and we're going to have to do more retainage and keeping water out of that on the storm systems. And so we're working with Cedar City and trying to address that as well. And recognize that there needs to be some steps taken to address that. So I think that's kind of a general rundown, kind of the balancing of the greater public welfare with personal property rights and concerns of not knowing from year to year where we're at. And I think I've kind of addressed some of those things that we wish we had more ability to manage and move flood waters than we do. We're not in control of that. We can't determine where all the water goes. And it would be nice to be able to do more of that so that we could put it in places that may have less impact. But just an attempt attempt to try to do that this year created some concerns, you know, of moving more water north than what we have historically. And every time you move it to someone else is going to have a concern about that and raise those concerns. So anyway, that's a rundown. I don't know if Rich had anything else that he wanted to add as an introduction before we open to the public hearing. Okay.
Reed, I want to talk about recharge at some point. I may do the public
Okay.
hearing and then have you come back up and pull up a website for me, if you would.
Absolutely.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you. Okay. So we'll go ahead and, regarding item number 2, we'll go ahead and open the public hearing.
Questions today? Let me repeat that so you can hear it, because when you're online watching and people talk to you out of the audience here, you can't hear them, and it would be nice if you would remind them to come talk
We
to
try
us.
to.
I know. A lot of
Sometimes.
times it doesn't happen, though.
Sometimes we're good at it, sometimes we're not, so we do our best.
The drainage to, I'm sorry, Rose Clement. The drainage out of Quichpa, where does that go to? How does it drain?
It doesn't.
Doesn't evaporates.
Evaporation.
It's called the Terminus Lake. It's the low point in the valley, and it doesn't have an outlet.
There's no caverns in there underneath that area?
Not that I know of. There's about 400 feet of clay, and so that's what's the challenge about Quichpa Lake is there's about 400. They estimate based on well logs, there's about 400 feet of clay, and it does not perk. And so any water that goes to Quichpa, and I'll talk about that in a minute, evaporates. It doesn't. It just doesn't go anywhere, and so that's the challenge. It doesn't percolate into the aquifer.
And so if somebody wanted to understand that better, where would they get information from that?
There's a good website, and I'll have Reed pull that up for me, and I'll explain that a little bit. But it's the CICWCD.org.
Okay.
It's Central Iron County Water Conservancy District, and they have a lot of good information on that site.
Okay. Thank you for explaining the acronym. That happens a lot in the city and county, and then people don't know what was that. Well, let me just search
That
that
was a
out.
hard thing since I've been on the
Yeah.
commission.
It's a good question.
I had a question. Maybe Reed could answer this, but the reference map that said wasn't available for 2005, but in the display on the program here, it shows a reference to the 2005 study. I'm confused at how you can use that in verbiage and not provide the data.
I don't understand your question. I understand. You understand that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Let Richard address that.
Richard Wilson. So what happened is in 2005, after the water began to recede, one of our county employees actually took a GPS handheld and walked the boundary where all the material that's left behind, whenever you have water retract, it always leaves an indicator, whether that's just fulsome, just floating material. And he walked that boundary. It took several days, and he took data points. Now, those type of devices do not have a very good elevation. We know that. They can be as much as 10 or 15 feet off for elevation purposes. But for the purposes of GPS coordinate, they're quite accurate. So we took that data, we found that boundary, and then in 2021, the state provided a LIDAR. I don't know what the acronym stands for, but what it is it is a mapping of elevation. And so they created a contour map, which is within 3 centimeters of accuracy, just like that. And we took that and overlaid the data from 2005 from the GPS coordinator, and we said, how does that compare to the LIDAR map that the state had just provided to us? And our GIS group here in the county overlaid them. And what we were able to see was that where the coordinates of the 2005 boundary walk corresponded to 560 on the LIDAR map. I mean 5460, thank you. 5460 on the, and that's what we would have expected. For the most part, while the lake was stable, though it's never quite stable because the wind and things like that keep motion there, was not unlike your bathtub. it fills to a point. One end of your bathtub is not got more water in it than the other. You don't have an elevation difference. The surface of the bathtub remains the same. So do lakes. They primarily don't fluctuate from one end to the other. So what we found was the coordinate corresponded with the elevation around the lake. And that's why we put those two together. That's I think was the question. How did we use the two different data?
Thank you for explaining that. But the question further is quite, why are we missing the same usage of, why did you do that in 2005 and not 4 and 6? Why was there a difference in those two, in those 3 years or whatever years they were? You said you did. You said you used a handheld in 2005.
I wasn't here in 2005, but my understanding is that was the high lake level. That was the year that the snowpack on the mountain was, in fact, I was just at a conference this last week in which they explained the amount of water content in 2005 was 50 inches of water. A lot of people were very concerned about this year because of the snowpack. It was around 32 inches this year. And so 2005 was an amazingly wet winter. What went together with that spring runoff was the temperatures. The temperatures in the spring of 2005 were steady and warm. In our last spring, to 2023, this last spring, we had a fluctuation from daytime temperatures to nighttime temperatures, which allowed for the runoff to be sustained over a longer period of time. But that was a year, I don't know why they decided to go out and map it in 2005 and not the previous years. But that was the year, probably because they wanted to see what had happened. Does anyone else know?
It was a huge amount of water. It was a huge amount of water
all I
at that
know is-
time.
Jared was actually the one that did that, so maybe he could.
all those questions. I'm the one that walked.
Come here, Jared.
Well, you should be up here.
Yeah, so that's the same year they almost lost Glen Canyon Dam.
Yeah.
The water was,
So
the
much
water, I
water.
read a book,
Same year that the freeway closed down? Was that, no, that was later, sorry.
I don't know, but that was I've been reading a book called The Emerald Mile, and that's the year that the water was splashing over the dam, and the Army Corps took sheets, they made metal brackets and put plywood on top of the dam. So you had plywood holding Lake Powell that was higher than the dam, the water leaking through the joints of the plywood, and the water was going through those sandstone. I think it was 200,000 CFS. I mean, that's a lot of water. It was cavitating. They thought they might lose the dam that year, so it was a historic year. I don't know, going back, how many years we had higher than that, but it was a major year.
So Steve Platt was the county engineer at that time. I was the GIS person at the time. I'm now the county IT director. So he asked me if we could do this, so I said sure. So we walked it. The reason why we walked 2005 is because of the historic snow year. 2004, 2006, we just didn't have a need for it. And we had water going over 56. We had all that kind of stuff going on. So that was the reason for 2005, is just because it was historically high. And at that point in time, we didn't see any, I'm assuming, Steve, I'm probably putting words in his mouth. We need to have Steve here, but I'm assuming he just didn't see the need for the data points there. So, and then to kind of go back a little bit on what Rich was saying too, when we take that, it was a handheld unit, had an antenna on the back there, walked it all, and it's taking digital points. We went through there, and then we, software-wise, we justified, not the elevation, because that was a really good point. That the handhelds don't do the elevation quite as well, but we could do the vertical within a couple of feet, so, or the horizontal. Anyway.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good
The
question.
foresight there was really something else. We're really thankful that you did that. That was very helpful for what we're doing here.
It was good for Steve to do it, and I enjoyed it. I got out of the office for
Oh, I
about
bet.
took along. In fact, I shouldn't be saying this because the commission meeting is just non-relevant, but there was 13.1 miles that I walked to go around Quichapa. And we I walked Rush Lake as well. We were looking at walking Little Salt Lake, but we ended up not doing that one. But I put a lot of miles on it.
Yeah, that's nice. You're a little younger then too, Jared.
Well, and the $1 million question on these high water years is how fast the water's coming down. I mean, we were very blessed this year. Reed said we had 32 inches or something.
32 inches
32 of water in the snowpack.
Equal water this
right,
year.
and we were very blessed this year with a cool spring, and it came down just perfect. But 05, they were freaking out. I mean, 50 inches of water they didn't know what was going to happen. If it would have come down fast that year, it would have been really bad. So
And it did come down pretty quick.
right, but they handled it. They did pretty.
They
good.
did handle it. So I appreciate what Jared just said. So now we have another study on Rush Lake to do. Because if he's walked it, we'll want to look at it.
There you go.
Pick it up for you, Rich, and we'll get it for you.
Don't forget Parowan. We have the Little Salt Lake that's...
Now, who are you?
Sorry? My name is Dan Jessen. I'm an Iron County
Welcome
resident.
back.
And Parowan City Manager. But, you know, that's the issue with these closed basins, and we have a closed basin in Parowan, same exact scenario. We don't have a lot of building going on out there yet, but we have some in the foothills. But actually, I had a question, and that is, so for Reed, in the way that the ordinance is written, does it allow for somebody to raise the elevation of their site and make it buildable? Just curious.
It does in the,
You gotta come to the mic.
Reed Erickson in response to Dan Jessen. It does allow that in the, let me get back here, to the provisional build area and any setback area outside of that, but not in the inundation area. You can build a non-habitable structure in the inundation area, but not a habitable structure, just because there's so much water there all the time.
It's the septic system.
And
that
when you
fails.
build up that much,
Is the issue.
you would have to build up your whole lot because your septic would have to be higher. You'd have to raise it so much, and then that's going to divert water somewhere else. It's going to displace that and create more problem for someone else. And so, no, that this is a no-build area, and then in the bottom, and then the inundation area, no habitable structures, unless they can show their elevation is different than that, and then they can.
Thank you.
Good morning. My name's Larry Bullock. I'm a property owner out at Quichapa. I just wanted to point out something that hasn't been mentioned, and that is that when the Planning Commission adopted and approved the ordinance, it was not unanimous. Commissioner Platt expressed concern that, yeah, we need to do the ordinance, and I'm not objecting to the ordinance. What I am concerned about is exactly what Commissioner Platt pointed out, and that is the ordinance is not enough to solve the problem. It's one step of an entire program that needs to be implemented. He pointed out that in order for flood management to be effective, you have to have the cooperation of everyone that's involved, not just the county, but the cities and the Water Conservancy District and the irrigation company all have to work together to make flood control management effective, so that when they work that way, they can coordinate efforts to identify projects that need to be done, how to fund those projects, build them, manage them, maintain them. So I appreciate the effort of Mr. Wilson, because he has identified 3 projects that would be necessary in order to fully manage the flood control at Quichapa. Briefly, he is recommending that we do a flood control basin on Churches Creek, that we raise the dike level at Quichapa Lake that got overtopped this year, and that we place gates on the Woodbury diversion structure. And so I recognize that there's no money for those projects now, and I also recognize that you have a lot of priorities that need to be managed, and you have to decide what's most important in any given year, and you've got a gel and some different things to build right now. But my question is that is simply this: is the commission willing to include these projects recommended by the county engineer in your long-term capital improvement program?
Well, you mentioned the dike. The projects we've done, Larry, are we've kind of done them all on a shoestring budget. So I was appointed to the Central Iron County Water Conservancy District Board in 2012 when I was elected to City Council, and we worked. And and it maybe even after you sit down, we'll pull up a website and kind of go through some of the recharge projects we've done. But we've worked together as a county, as cities, municipalities, Enoch City, Cedar City, the Water District, the irrigators. All of us have combined and done a lot of these projects on a shoestring budget. We haven't had a lot of money, but we've had donated equipment from Wheeler Machinery. We've had landowners, your family, the Brad Schmutz, the Jones family. None of these projects would have been possible out by Quichapa had these families not helped us. And we greatly appreciate that.
Yeah, that's what we're talking about.
Right. And so we have, and I would like to, I'd like to pull up some maps to show the tricky part. It's like Rich would like to do something with Quichapa Creek, but to do, and we've had these discussions with Parowan. We've had meetings in here with the groundwater management plan about recharge. And recharge is a wonderful thing, but it takes a lot of years to dig big holes in the ground, and it's very expensive. And so we've been able to utilize holes that have been dug, mainly gravel pits, over the last 50, 60 years that have created great big holes. And thankfully, these companies like Staker Parsons, who's the parent company of Western Rock, has been really gracious to work with us and let us use some of their facilities. And I would like to, like I say, I'd like to go. So we have made a lot of efforts in the last 11 years I've been involved. I was a city councilman for 8 years and worked on that board. And now as the county commissioners, our duty and responsibility is to appoint the board members of the Central Iron County Water Conservancy District. So we work really closely with all of these different entities, and money is always the issue, that's a challenge.
I understand we don't have it, but that doesn't preclude identifying a project and setting a goal toward improving it. And so that's my question: is the commission willing to put those 3 projects on a capital facilities plan?
Well, I think they basically, I don't know if they're actually written in our county plan, but like for instance the dike at Quichapa, the county had our D8 cat out there. I operated that with Tracy Feltner from the Water District. We had 2 trackhoes out there. We had Curtis DeMille out there working. We had a trackhoe from the landfill that I was operating, and we built that dike across. We worked with the BLM. We were very grateful for the BLM who gave us, and they really worked. Usually it takes a long time. You have to do NEPA on those kind of projects, but they gave us permission to go ahead and do it. So we built a 1/4 mile dike about 7 feet high. I know Rich would like to raise that, but we worked really hard, a lot of hours, and a lot of different entities worked together and donated time and equipment and diesel fuel. We did it on a shoestring budget. It's been very effective, and it's allowed us to bisect that lake to where we run the clean water on the north side of the dike, the dirty water on the south side. And they're pumping, and the Water District installed a pump with leach rock so they can pump water to the Schmutz Pond. It flows under the Highway 56 with 4 culverts, goes through the Lazy River, and then it's pumped up to the two of the Joneses fields and waters those fields so they idle their wells. So it's helping the aquifer that way. So we've done a lot in the last 10 years to mitigate. I would say we've in fact let me just pull this up. I texted Paul Monroe because I had some numbers in my head, but I wanted to get it accurate. If I get my phone to work. So we recharged about 6,300 acre feet of water between October of 2022 and June of 2023. And that makes the total recharge in the past 6 years over 20,000 acre feet that we've put in these gravel pits. And we'll pull up a map and show the public. or 6.5 billion gallons of water we've put in the aquifer up here, or not here, in the Cedar Valley by the airport versus being in Wichita. So that's a lot of water that we prevented from even going to Wichita
Right.
in the last 6 years. Yeah, does that help answer?
Well, not
But
entirely,
yep,
but
go ahead, Rich.
So Larry, since our discussion, I last week I met with the commissioners during budgets, and we discussed a capital improvement, capital facilities portion for our budget. The steps that are required by the state of Vermont, the state of Utah, is that you first have to, before you can start to have impact fees. I think Reed mentioned that, and begin to finance some of these things. Is you have to have the budgets. Now, on some of these things that you and I have discussed, we could do those as one-off projects. But in order to get the whole community to help assist financially, we go through. Say it again, Reed.
Facilities plan.
A capital facilities plan. So that's a recommendation in my budget this year, is to begin the plan so that we can go to that point. And I don't think Reed and I talked about it this morning. One of the key elements of trying to as we propose this is not the end of the plan. That these are measures that will be utilized right now, because this is what's happening on the ground right now. But that we have a need, just as was mentioned by Commissioner Platt, that we need to start recognizing and doing something about it in a positive way, so that we're never in control of Mother Nature, but that we have a greater influence. And that just is going to be an in-time thing rather than an immediate
Yeah,
thing.
and I agree. I am talking long-term. So are these projects going to be in the capital facilities plan?
We're working on developing a capital facilities plan, and they would certainly be there. Whether the commission adopts those, we'll see.
Yeah, that's fine. That's all I wanted to know.
We can't hold
As needed.
future commissioners accountable for
Well,
those
they can change it.
decisions too. They
Yeah,
can change it.
They can
yeah,
change it, but at
exactly.
least I just wanted to hear you say, yeah, we're on board for trying to do the best we can to do projects that will reduce the flooding out there. And
Absolutely.
if
Right.
I'm
Absolutely.
hearing yes, you're going to put those in the capital facilities plan, and then we'll work toward funding them and building them whenever we can.
Yeah.
That's all I wanted to hear.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank
Yep.
you.
So as a follow-up, I did meet with NRCS last week during our conference here, which was an excellent conference. In fact, we had a day in which they discussed the 23 snowmelt from one of the professors at SUU. We also had a day in which the Coal Creek solution for what we've been just talking about was actually a presentation to the conference. And but what I wanted to speak to that was, with my discussion with NRCS, is working toward the first step is putting a rib in. I call it the rib, the separator between the Stevensville Ditch, Coal Creek Channel, and the Wichita Channel, which is only about 4 feet high. It's a short rib. It was originally designed to be higher, to make sure that those flows were in fact
Accurate,
accurate and consistent.
40-60.
40-60.
because there is some splash.
And so for us to do that, we have to also have NRCS's permission, because they are the funder of that. They provided the funds for that structural improvement.
Okay. Is there any other public comments?
Here, this
Go ahead,
guy,
sir.
he has a letter. Will you pass that down to you?
And I've got, is that the letter that Reed gave me?
This is a different
this is-
one.
okay.
This is a different one.
Good morning. My name is Richard Klein. I'm a resident and property owner of the Wichita Lake area. And I put my comments in the form of a letter to the commissioners. I gave that to the lady sitting in the clerk's position here, and I understand that would be given to you. I had not known of a lot of the things that were presented, the positive things that were presented by the engineering department. I'm happy to hear that long-term there's plans to do other things. So just very briefly, I'd like to paraphrase a few of the things that are still relevant. And that is, well, first of all, I would like to request that the amendments not be approved until further information has been presented. And the reason for that is that no consideration has been given to mitigating the root causes of the increased flood hazard in the Kitchipah Lake area. Some of that was discussed afterwards, but in the amendments themselves, there's no mention of anything like that. And these causes would include increased runoff because of the development in adjacent areas that reduce the area of land which absorbs rainwater, and also changes made in channeling accumulated water. Now, unless the root causes are addressed and mitigated, we can expect that we'll need in the future to deal with this problem over and over again if nothing is done to address the reasons for this increased water in Kitchipah Lake. Therefore, I would like to stress that it would be far better to address the reasons causing the increased flood hazards and deal with them now. Don't put it off until next year or 10 years from now, because it will just get worse and worse and worse. The proposed amendment places the entire burden of correcting the situation solely upon property owners and residents of the Kitchipah Lake area. This results in reduced property values, forbidden home construction or severely limiting construction on some properties, and increased insurance costs because of perceived flood danger by the insurance companies. They're going to charge higher premiums if they're willing to insure anything at all. So before proceeding further with this, I have one basic recommendation. A historical summary of what's been done, what has been done in the past. Well, that was fairly well presented here already today, and also the explanation of the reasons for the apparent increased flood hazards relative to the FEMA regulations or FEMA plan, which appears already by reference in the Iron County Code. That was done 37 years ago, and Cedar City and Iron County, the whole valley, today relative to what it was 37 years ago is far greater. Many more areas of concrete and asphalt that prevent the absorption of the water into the land. But again, I'd like to stress that we can only expect that to increase and get worse in the future, because on one hand, thankfully, the county is growing and developing. On the other hand, we're talking just now about limiting everything in the Kitchipah Lake area, and nothing has been actually proposed in writing in any amendment or any instructions to mitigate the root causes. Now, we've heard this morning over and over again that everything that's been done looking at these other factors has been done on a shoestring budget. And these other items, it was mentioned by the representatives of the county engineer that they would have to include this in a budget plan, et cetera, et cetera. These are long-term factors that won't have an immediate impact upon reducing or eliminating the root causes. I would like to propose to the commission that they consider something immediate that would help fund these long-term items, so that we don't have to hear ourselves limited by shoestring budgets all the time. And that would be developers of subdivisions, people who are requesting building permits, that an additional amount of of money be added to the cost of getting these plans approved, and this would go into a special fund that would pay for doing these long-term solutions. And if that's done, at least we're making a very positive step immediately to stop or at least cut down the ever-increasing problem of more and more water flowing into Kitchipah Lake. So if there's any questions about what I've said, I'm happy to try and answer.
Those are good comments. Appreciate you being here. And we, it's just money's tight, and we've run into this with our jail. We did a truth and taxation this year and added 15% on top of the 85% for the jail. We scrapped that idea for several reasons, and we've gone to a GEO bond, and the GEO bond does not cover any increase for the county. The example I used was I was getting a haircut recently at the barber shop, and I asked the barber, I said, how much were haircuts 20 years ago? And he says about $6. And we haven't raised our county levy for over 20 years. In fact, we don't really remember when we raised it. And so we're still operating the county on $6 haircuts. Last time I went and got a haircut at Holmes Barbershop was $22. It was 19, I think, 3 months ago or 2, and then it jumped to 22. And I'm not berating them. It's just the price of haircuts have gone up almost 4 times since the time we raised taxes in Iron County, and that's a problem. I've been anti-tax my whole life, but at some point with the inflation, that's why it's no fun to be a commissioner anymore, is because of inflation. I welcome you to run, because it's no fun, because we have increased costs of materials and labor and everything else. Everybody knows what's going on, and we don't have the budget. We just flat don't have the budget. So we're open for suggestions on how we can convince the public that we need a little more money to operate this county. And we've got some folks back here are giggling and laughing, but that's great, and so that's kind of where we're at, So when I talk about a shoestring budget, and we needed to expand the recharge basin out by the Lazy River at Quichipah, and I called Wheeler Machinery when I was on the city council and asked them if they would donate a D8 cat for 2 weeks, and they said yes, we absolutely would. And Phil Schmidt donated an operator all day, and then I'd go out at night and run it. Okay, and we did that for 2 weeks, and that's what I mean by shoestring budget. I was on the machine doing the work.
Okay.
Because we couldn't afford to pay somebody to do it. Okay, when we built the dike across the lake, I was out there running equipment. The water district was volunteering. Everybody was chipping in, right? When Tracy Feltner went and rented forms to do the spillway at the Schmidt Pond, he went to the form company to rent some cement forms, and they said, "What's this for?" And they said it's for the recharge projects out to Quichipah. They said no charge. Everybody in this valley knows we have a problem, and everybody's been good to contribute and help, right? And from Wheeler Machinery, from the form rental company, from us as commissioners, from Bruce Anderson, who hauls the D8 cat out to Quichipah for us on his time when he's so busy doing road work. Everybody's been, and that's a shoestring budget. We don't have millions and millions of dollars to do these projects. We just don't. And so we're doing the best we can, and we've done a lot. And so I'm just trying to, it's going to take a little time, but I want Reed to pull up after we're done with public hearing, I want to pull up and show the public some of what we've done in the last 10 years to prevent more water going to Quichipah and be wasted, because we have done a lot. We've done a lot, and so.
That's all very much appreciated and commendable, especially the volunteer work by you and the other people involved. What I would like to know is what could be done immediately to reduce this funding problem. And I have a question.
Well, we've applied. We just sat down with Cedar City, the water district. Tracy Feltner and Paul Monroe and I and Garth Green, the mayor of Cedar City. We sat down and some of those folks and Paul Bittman, others, and the city manager. And there's a lot of money the state is allocated for recharge. The water is a top priority for the state of Utah, and they've got a lot of money available. And so we went through and decide, and we identified projects that Cedar City and the county could jointly combine on, and we've applied for some of those millions of dollars to do some of those. We hope we get some.
Who do you apply to?
That's the
State.
DNR, Division Natural Resources, and so we've applied for that. We're waiting to hear back, but it's favorable because I've been in contact with Joe Ferry, and we've done a lot of things to. We've done a lot of things. Some work, some don't. We sometimes with this recharge stuff, you don't know if it's going to work until you do it. When I was on the city council in 2017, we went out with a track hoe, and there's the pit that Western Rock owns, a huge gravel pit, and we went out and dug a trench, and we thought we'd run water down this trench to recharge the pit, and we were excited. We ran water down it, and we had 2 track hoes sitting there one night. The next morning we went out there, it looked like the Grand Canyon. It eroded that bank so bad we probably could have lost 2 track holes in it. So we had to call timeout. We went and found some used pipe. There was some 33-inch concrete pipe at the airport sitting there for years and years. It was obsolete because you couldn't buy gaskets for it anymore. Jeff Hunter, who is an amazing public works individual at Cedar City, in 2 weeks we hauled all that used pipe and we ran pipe. And Kit Wareham did an engineering design for us. We ran that pipe. We had to go to Geneva and get a little bit more 36-inch, and then we did that. And then we had problems with back cutting. That water was back cutting and eroding back, and the pipe was falling in the trench. So then we had to call timeout again, and we had to. I'm sorry to belabor this, but I want to paint a picture of what we've done. And then we went in and we formed a wall of concrete, poured 30 yards of concrete. We put a 4-foot culvert over a 36-inch steel concrete pipe, and we cantilevered it out, and then it's still back cut. Not as bad, so we hauled about 150 loads of basalt rock and dumped in there, and we finally stabilized that. But it was a nightmare. But we finally got it. But it took trial and error, and it took a lot of time. But now that we have that project done, and we were able to recharge this year 2 billion gallons. 2 billion gallons of water that didn't go to Quichapa in those pits because we've done all this work since 2016. And so
let me say one more thing about his pipe that he had running into that. In the middle of the night, he monitored that, Paul did, and there was a big log that got caught in that. He went out there at 3 o'clock in the morning and pulled that pipe out. Now, as a commissioner, he wasn't responsible to do that, but he did that because he was monitoring that, and he could see that the flow had stopped, and he went out and pulled that out by himself. So it's easy to condemn commissioners for the work that we do, and it's a hard job. But that's just a good example of Paul going out there at 3 o'clock in the morning because he cares. And all of us care. All of us have done projects that we're concerned about. And so to have people say mean things about us, it's very difficult because this is a hard job and we're doing the best we can. So
well, and thanks Marilyn for that. I just and your comments aren't necessarily mean. I mean, but we do get a lot of criticism and but the water district set up these SCADA monitors. They did weirs that show, and it's awesome. You can get on the Central Iron County Water Conservancy District, and at any recharge we have, you can see how much cubic feet per second is going into that. So that's the night I woke up about 3 a.m, and I looked on my phone and I noticed it was way down, and I thought, what's wrong? So I went out there, and there was a big tree stuck in the flume, and I crawled down there and hooked a chain around it, and water was going over my head, and it was freezing cold, and hooked a chain on it and pulled it out. But that's what I did. I'm passionate about that. It's something I enjoy doing, and it's something that every morning for, I think it was during the whole runoff. What was it? Maybe 2 months. I went out every morning at 6:30 with a track hoe, and Ryan Riddle, our fire warden, got a new track hoe, so they let us use it for that time. They didn't need it right then. So every morning at 6:30 I went out and spent 2 hours clearing the sand. It built up 4 feet of sand every day in our channel going to the Schmidt pit. And every morning at 6:30, I'd go out and spend 2 hours cleaning that out every day. And that enabled us to recharge 2 billion gallons instead of maybe 1.25 billion gallons. I don't know, but it helped a lot. And so you talk about capital plans and all this. I haven't, and I've been criticized over the years as I've run for elections about capital plans, and I just like to go do it. It was 2016 when I was on the water board, and we talked about, I was on there from 2012 to 2016. So 4 years, every night, every month, we had a water meeting, and on the agenda was recharge. And one night I said, I'm sick and damn tired of talking about recharge. Let's get something done. And I went out and I talked to Phil Schmidt. I talked to Western Rock. I talked to a lot of these gravel pit operators. Said, can we use your gravel pits? And they said, sure. Phil Schmidt said, sure. And there's a pit over by Airport Road that he was leasing from Cedar City, and we wanted to run water in the pit closer to the channel. And he said, and I kind of got in trouble for it because I went out and talked to him, and Phil Schmidt's a doer, and he said, I said, can we use this pit? He said, well, I've got to, he said, I want to mine the other one because I've got a lease with Cedar City and it's going to run out. I said, well, let's just extend your lease. It's that simple. I said, I don't have the authority to do that as one city councilman. I'd have to get my other city councilman to buy into that, but I don't see why not. And so the next day he was in there cleaning out the pit we needed to recharge with and started mining gravel out of it with 2 rock trucks and 2 big track hoes. And I said, Phil, you got to slow down. I haven't got permission from the council yet. So we got it approved. We extended the lease. And because of that, this year, that big pit that we've never used before, we use that for recharge too and expanded it more and more. And so there's just been a lot of things over the last that I have a history of it because I've been involved in it every step of the way. And there's been a lot of people that have helped. And so we, I don't know that I've ever written a lot of it down. We just go do it, and that's why I mentioned in the meeting before, we had a meeting with the mayor of Cedar City this week. Western Rock's been an amazing partner in this. The Western Rock recharge, which is the huge pit I talked about, there's a pit to the south of that that's about as big. There's a dam between them. And we filled Western Rock so full this year that it started leaking through the dam, and we thought we were going to lose the dam, and there was equipment in the bottom, and I wasn't sleeping at night because if that broke, it would have ruined a lot of equipment. And so we're working negotiations to see if we can have them move to another piece of property Cedar City owns and use that for recharge. We'll put a spillway we'll put a pipe through the dam and fill both of them at the same time, so we don't have to worry about the dam breaking. So there's lots of things going on that we're doing to prevent water going to Quichapa. But historically, there's been a split at the Woodbury split of 60-40.
And a split?
It's a split. It's a split right there by the ball fields, okay, by Centennial Park. And 60% goes north and 40% goes south.
Because of the water rights that the farmers have. That's why it's split that way.
And that's been since 2000 or 1910 is what Reed said. That's been happening.
Mr. Woodbury split.
Woodbury, and that's why it's called the Woodbury Split. Now the challenge is with the recharge, we love the winter runoff because if it comes down slow, we can put it where it wants to go, and we can take advantage.
And it's cleaner water, so we can use that better. Yeah, also for recharge. When the floods come from rain, and it comes down off of Cedar Breaks, then it's so muddy and dirty that we can't use it.
You can take a quart jar and dip it in the water on those big monsoon events, and when it settles out, it's 50%. You can take one of these bottles, and when it settles out, it's 50% dirt.
Okay.
And so we don't want a lot of that going into our recharge basins because it'll fill them with dirt, and then it costs us millions of dollars to clean them out.
It'll shut them off.
So we have to be a little bit selective on what water we put where. And so we did divert this year, probably more than we ever had. We allowed some individuals that have some farming interests out in the Enoch area by Rush Lake. We allowed them to put a diversion structure in the Woodbury Split to divert more water going north to try to help the folks at Quichapa. And we got screamed at by some farmers that they thought they were getting too much water. So we're damned if we do and damned if we don't sometimes, right? And so and we would like to do some improvements out there, but we've got to get some right of ways to dig some channels to go straight to Rush Lake so it doesn't affect some of the agriculture people out there. And so there's a lot of moving parts that we've been working on for a lot of years. And so I just hope the folks and I've taken a long time, but I hope the folks at Quichapa know that it's like the resident that's out there that built, really close to the lake, and I feel really bad for him because every time it gets high, they have water in their crawl space and their septic tank. And that's it. They can live in their house. It's just that they can't live in their house because their septic tank quits working because it gets in the leach field.
That's why these new ordinances are going to help new people coming in.
And so, I don't know if that helps you any.
Just some closing comments first of all, and with respect to what Commissioner Wood said, I hope that nothing I said here implied that the commission isn't doing anything, and I've said that since hearing some of the previous speakers speak, that I realize now that a lot has been done. And I think I'm not the only one in the Quichapa Lake area that appreciates this. So thank you, first of all.
You're welcome.
What I would like to say, though, is you're waiting for budget or money to be approved externally to the county that will allow proceeding with some of these projects. And my recommendation is that's all well and good, but we should try and attack these problems now, not wait for external funding to come in. And we could get a good head start on that if the people who are making money by building big subdivisions, if a levy was placed on that type of construction,
called an impact fee, and it's something we have to do an impact fee study for, and we're in the process of.
Okay.
We've had discussions, and we're working that direction.
And that
could have been done sooner.
And that money,
yeah,
that money that would come from those who would profit,
Right.
actually profit by what they're impacting in the flood control. They're making they're making flooding even worse, and they're making a profit on that. And I don't deny them the privilege of making a profit. That's our system in the United States, and that's fine. But maybe they shouldn't make quite as much profit. Maybe they should contribute a little bit of that profit to a special fund through the commission that would help fund all of these important long-term projects in the meantime while we're waiting for money to come in externally. And that was all. So
that's good. That's a good point. Very good point.
Yeah. So it's like let's do this now, something we can do now. And when other money comes in, great.
Nothing is just easy with government. You have to have studies, and you have to. I wish we could just throw money at that.
Right. But
we'd love that. But
pardon me, isn't this within the control of the commission to establish a levy on certain types of construction?
It's called an impact fee, and they're very strict on how you collect
them
impact fees, how you start them, and how you spend the money. If you collect a lot of impact fees and don't spend them within a certain period, I think it's 6 years, you don't have a good plan on how you're going to spend those fees, you got to give them all back, and that's a nightmare. We are working on that. And our engineer and county planner are working on those. And we're looking at that and implementing.
And who is the authority that does this, that requires this? A state organization or?
The state law. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So the impact.
Well, they're not easy. They're complicated.
The impact fee could be levied in 2 stages. Stage 1 would be the amount of money or payment that there's absolutely no question about, and we would have no problem whatsoever justifying that. Stage 2 would be to increase that, and that would require approval external to the county to increase that to what we feel would be really fair to everybody involved. So thank you, and if you have any more questions for me or any comments, I'm happy to relate to them.
Thank you for your input. You've been very valuable.
Thank you.
Are there any other public comments? regarding this issue? If not, seeing none, we'll close this public hearing. I don't want to belabor this too much. Could you go to cicwcd.org? And I just want to, Mr. Klein and others that want to pull this website up, I want to show you where you can go and read more. So if you go to that website and then scroll down to conservation, so go up to the 3 lines, read up. Yeah, there you go. Sorry. Yeah, there you go. And then go to conservation.
Projects.
And then scroll down to recharge, right there in the middle bottom. So that's talking about our aquifer recharge, and it shows the different projects we've been working on. One of the projects we've done a couple of years ago was Quichapaw Creek. There's about, Bowen Collins did a study, and there's about they figure there's about 3,000 acre feet of water that comes down Quichapaw Creek. And we haven't proven that it's actually ever made it to the lake. It usually gets down to about right before 7,700 west and fans out. Reed, stop right there, scroll back down. Now go back up. I just want to show you, let's, right there,
video.
Right there. So that right there to the where the red square, where the white arrow is, that's the original Schmidt pit that we did back in about 2017-18. And then down to the right, bottom right of that picture, that's the county gravel pit. And that, when I was elected 5 years ago, that was probably a fourth that size. But they've crushed a lot of gravel and made that pit a lot bigger. Just up to the right of the screen, just in about the middle, I actually took a Traco the year we had in 2019. I cut a V out of the bank so we could overflow water. Bruce gets his equipment out of there, and we overflow water when the Schmidt pit gets full. It acts as a spillway and fills the county pit. And that county pit this year was like a toilet. You couldn't put enough water in it. You couldn't. It was really
because
amazing.
We harvested so much gravel out of that.
Well, and there's something about that one pit that just takes the water. You could not fill it up. It was amazing. And then early this spring, I met with, and the challenge has been, when we first started doing this in 2017, and further to the north, we'll go to that picture in a minute, but further to the north, but stay there for a minute. The issue has always been putting large amounts of water around the airport because of birds and airplanes, right? And the FAA, when we first tried to do the Western Rock Pit, there was a lot of pushback from the FAA, because they said that's right where the planes come in. As they approach the airport, they fly right over that pit. And they said, you can't do that because the birds will fly up and hit the airplanes. And we put air cannons, and there was a few geese that were out there, but we put air cannons, and we had the fishing game go out there, and actually, if we couldn't scare them off, they'd actually have to eliminate them. But it turned out to be not as big of a problem as they thought it might be. So they've kind of relaxed their regulations. So this is just to the east of the airport, and I met Mayor Green out there this spring, and said, why can't we put water in the pit right there by Airport Road? So just to the left of that is the airport. And I called Western Rock, since they bought that from Phil Schmidt, that's Cedar City property, that pit on the left side. And so I called Western Rock and said, is there any way we could put water in that pit this year? And they said, well, no, we're going to mine gravel. And I said, shoot, that's too bad. But they called me 2 days later and said, go ahead, we'll mine somewhere else. You guys go ahead and use it. And that's how Western Rock's been this whole time. They've been amazing. So we got it there again, trial and error. We went over to Bruce at Anderson at the county yard. We dug a trench. We ran some culvert. We ran the water in an open ditch, ran a culvert, and in one day it was like jello. It just a little bit of water created a big problem. So we tore that out. We went out to the WL Plastics and got some 24-inch HTB pipe. We went to Salt Lake and got a welder, brought it down. We welded a bunch of sections of that pipe together. We laid that pipe, and it worked beautifully. And so now we have, in that area, we have 3 pits that we can put water in, and it's been really good. So, and then Reed, go down to the Western Rock Pit real quick, if you can show that one. So that's, keep going. So that right there, that's the Western Rock Pit. Click on that if you, can you enlarge that picture? So that's the big Western Rock Pit, and that's about 12 acres. And we were putting, and you can see the riprap, the basalt we had to put in to prevent it from back cutting, so that it wouldn't just erode clear back to the channel. But that's right where the airplanes fly over to approach the airport. And we were putting about 50 cubic feet per second, which is about 100 acre feet a day, into that pit. And that's a lot of water. When you consider 100 acre feet's a lot of water, we were putting that much into that pit. Just to the south of that is a pit that's about the same size. And that's what we're trying to negotiate right now, is to allow Western Rock to mine somewhere else and let us use that. So we are very aggressive. That's a picture of the original Kit Wareham, our Cedar City engineer, back when Mayor Sherritt was the mayor, said, we've got all this beautiful winter water going out to Quichapa. What can we do? Those are two borrow pits. They mined for the gravel for the runway, and they created a system where they could recharge, and those do really well. That's one of our projects. But we've got about 7 really good projects in the valley. We continue to work on them. Every year we try to expand them. And I'm not on the board anymore, but I like to help. We appoint the board members. We work really good. That's a project at Enoch Graben where they're doing some recharge. This is the project we traded some property with Cedar City and created a gravel pit out by Quichapa, by the Vandenberg Road. And we created a pit, and we actually got permission from Sitla to cross their property, and we run a lot of that water out of Quichapa Canyon and recharge it right by one of the Cedar City wells.
That was one of the reasons why 77 didn't get chip sealed last year, was because we had water in that pit and we couldn't mine the gravel out of there. But we're hoping to do that next spring.
So anyway, there's those, but you can go on this site and read a lot about the efforts we've made. And anyway, I belabored this enough, but I wanted to just show the public what we've been doing in that. So, where are we at? I guess you want to wrap it up, Reed?
Decision time. I think that we've had a good explanation. I appreciate that. The one response that I would give to Mr. Klein in response to his concern about delaying this until we have a plan to take the action, we really don't do that in ordinance. Those are things that come through the budget and through capital facilities plans and the action plans. We don't do by ordinance. The ordinance is to set regulation. So it's really not appropriate to even put it in this ordinance. This ordinance is to try to help prevent more problems for people in the future, knowing that they can be put on notice. They're aware of what the history is. Just gives a better opportunity to help prevent some of the problems that we've felt and the heartache for people that have had bad experiences out there, and we want to try to help in that cause. So that's really what this ordinance does. And I don't know if you have any other questions you want.
Well, I'd just like to make a comment. I've been and we've been to a lot of planning commission meetings where you've been discussing. This isn't just something you've done in the
It's been a long
corner
time.
of a room. I mean, you've been looking at this for many years and planning this out. And we appreciate all the work. And I've been worried about this because it almost feels like a taking for property owners, because you're telling them what. But I know that, and I won't mention their names, but there's property owners out there that have a house and a beautiful home and property, but I'll bet they wish we'd have told them no when they built that house years ago. And I think this is something that's going to protect us as a county. It's going to protect property owners. They go into it with their eyes wide open, and they know what they've got. They just, because there's nothing more horrifying than having you see storm clouds on the mountain and Quichapa's filling up, and you know you might have a problem where you're living and might have to move out.
All winter long while you see the snow
Yep.
building up and knowing what you're going to be dealing with in the spring. It's a long-term problem. And we have several families that can attest to that. And we're at the Planning Commission meeting, say, adopt this ordinance.
Yep.
You know, that was their comment.
Protect the other people.
Yeah.
There's so many, historically since I've been there, I would not have built there because I've seen it over my lifetime. I've been here most of my life. And but these new people coming in, they don't understand what the water line means. They have no idea. So unless, you know,
This
we
kind
of
grass is a result of
yes,
water being on it
exactly,
quite often, and
exactly.
They just don't know.
So I think this is awesome that you guys have gotten this done, and I think it's going to protect future people from going in there. It's sad for those that are there that have these issues, and hopefully we can do some mitigation over the next few years to take care of those. But this is going to prevent those other folks from having your heartaches, you know, that you've had. So I think this is, you know, a step in the right direction for sure.
I'd also add that, you know, we've been accused of collaborating and pulling something through zoning that would help BLM and DNR acquire properties. They've had a plan for a long time to do more recreation development out there. They identified some of the improvements that they wanted to make. The Sportsmen for Fish and Wildlife and DNR and BLM have approached property owners before we had this
Did any
plan
of this, yeah.
to try to acquire those properties. So though we support that idea and it makes a lot of sense for them to acquire those properties for recreational purposes, this wasn't a design to try to facilitate that and affect property values or anything like that. I want to clarify that as well, is that we did this strictly out of the need to deal with it from the land use standpoint, and we would encourage those property owners who are going to be impacted by this ordinance to approach those agencies and to see if there's something they can do cooperatively to make that better for them. So that's all.
Okay. Any comments?
No.
Okay. I'll entertain a motion.
May I make a comment first?
Yes, you may.
Yeah.
Public hearing is closed, but we'll allow you to make a comment.
Thank you. Regarding the statement or the implication that the purpose of the you call it the rule, the ordinance, the Iron County Code, Chapter 15.12, which the proposed amendment is amending. It says right in 1512.030, methods of reducing flood losses, and I just quote two sections in there. It says, in order to accomplish its purposes, this chapter includes methods and provisions for, and subparagraph C, controlling the alteration of natural floodplains, stream channels, and natural prospective barriers, which help accommodate or channel floodwaters, and subparagraph E, to accomplish this, this chapter that we're supposedly amending now. This chapter includes methods and provisions for preventing or regulating the construction of flood barriers which will unnaturally divert floodwaters or which may increase flood hazards in, and the key words at the very end, in other areas. So the commission has the authority, and we're talking about problems in the Kitchipah Lake region, but it very definitely mentions here the concept that that things should be done to prevent or regulate in this
Okay.
in this section in this county code. Things should be mentioned to prevent or regulate the construction of barriers, etc., which if not done would increase flood hazards in other areas.
Yeah, well, so we'll move on, but our engineer here, Mr. Wilson, as our county engineer, has the authority to move water in flood situations, and that's exactly what we did this year. We've never moved more water to Kitchipah. We've always moved more north.
I understand. I'm just relating to what's written in this chapter,
right,
and the proposed amendment to this chapter.
Mm-hmm.
And the proposed amendment to this chapter does not change this. And so we would still expect there to be activities to prevent and to prevent increasing the flood hazard by things done or not done in other areas.
Well, and we've talked about this, so we're going to move on. But I'm just going to tell you that we did divert a lot of water north this year, a lot, and it helped. And we were cognizant of the people in Wichita, and we allowed a structure to be built that moved a lot of water to Rush Lake. You can go up on the sea and look how full Rush Lake is right now. It's full. Really full, and Mr. Rich, our county engineer, has the authority to do that. But we made other people very angry at us, right? We ran a lot of water out to where we were accused of drowning animals, sheep and cows, and ruining their operations. And if I had a phone call recorded for you, you'd probably blow your hair back. So
Okay.
so we hear it from both ends of the spectrum. So
in conclusion, you need more funds to do all these long-term projects.
Absolutely.
So we should do something now instead of waiting for external funds to flow in.
Yep. You're right. And that's the dilemma.
That's the hard part, being a commissioner.
Okay.
Are we ready for a motion?
Yep.
I would move for approval County Ordinance 2023-5, providing for amendments to the Iron County Code, Chapter 15.12, flood damage prevention relative to Wichita Lake Area Development Regulations. And note that it has been recommended by the Iron County Planning Commission.
Second.
It's been moved and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Thank you very much. We'll go ahead with public comments. I feel bad. I think the lady that was here to make public comment has left. So,
Dang it.
is there anybody else that would like to make a public comment not related to any agenda items?
She what?
She what?
No, she didn't.
No, the one lady.
I cut her off because I told her to wait
It
till.
was for a different something. Dang it.
Any other? Thanks for coming, Larry. Is anybody else have any comments? Seeing none, we'll move on to number 4, discussion possible approval of the Lakeside Industrial Subdivision final plat addressed at approximately 6500 West, 200 South, Cedar City, Utah, 38.89 acres located within the sections outlined in the agenda. This is the applicant is James Harker, and Reed, go ahead.
Thank you. This is located just off of Highway 56, west of, in the west side of Cedar Valley, just off of 6300 West. You can see where 6300 West South goes south off of Highway 56, and this is a property that's in the light blue. There's 2 lots. There's a 40-acre piece to the right. They have a well on that property. They're using that well to serve these next 2 lots. So this is a 2-lot subdivision, and then there's a 40-acre piece to the west of that that's a remainder parcel. So this was approved in March 27th of this year for the preliminary plat, which means they have a year to either do the improvements or to bond for the improvements. They actually got the construction improvements drawings approved and started building the road, and so they've put the road in. And Rich has been monitoring that improvement. But then with the water, they've said we need to get these lots sold, so we're just going to bond for the water improvement. And so that's why we're at final plat now with a bond that we don't actually have, but we can approve, and I'll hold the recording until I get that because they said it would be here, and they're anxious to get that done. So I told them we'd go ahead and do the approval contingent upon that bond coming in. And then everything else complies. They're in conformance with the ordinance. I do have the final plat here that we can record, and then I'll just hold it, or to get signed, and then I'll just hold it to record until we get the bond. So are there any questions about this?
Nope.
No.
Nope. We don't have a public
Nope.
hearing on this.
This
do we?
is a final plat where we just didn't go to the planning commission or anything. Where we're doing is seeing that the bonding is in place, with the construction drawings were approved, and we're good to go.
Entertain a motion.
Okay. I would move for approval of the Lakeside Industrial Subdivision final plat addressed at approximately 6500 West, 200 South, Cedar City, 38.89 acres.
Second.
Moved and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you. Number 5, discussion between Dan, if you'd have brought us a dozen donuts, I would have moved you up on the agenda a little bit.
We just liked having you here that long.
Sorry.
We hardly get to see you
Didn't think
anymore.
I thought this was commission meeting. Every time you think the commission meeting is going to go fast, it was my fault for talking too much. Discussion between Parowan City and Iron County on the alignment and drainage considerations at the fairgrounds.
Okay, so I had stuff, but it was on my laptop, and I don't have a VGA, so I can't plug it in. So I sent some stuff to Chanel.
Really hoping I'm going to do it for you, so.
Dan Jessen. Oh, wait, no, this isn't a public hearing. It's good to be here.
You have to say.
Seems kind
anyway.
of familiar. Been at this podium a few times. So I'll give you a little bit of a
You want me to sign
background.
that?
Delay him just a little longer.
You want me to sign that real quick? Sorry.
That's it. I'm out of here.
That's so some people can go to work.
What are you trying to say? This is work.
Dan is trying to tell me there's an error.
We need Jared back.
And Chanel signed for John?
We're not going to record it yet. We haven't got
You can have John
Okay.
come another day.
Thank you, Dan, for your patience.
You are absolutely
Sorry
welcome.
about that. Go ahead.
So while Chanel's bringing that up, I want to give you a little bit of background on this. Oh, hey, I can control. There is something. Yeah.
Well, that screen, but you don't have that. That screen is what you put in there, so you're not going to be able to.
No, I know. But she's pulling me something else that I emailed her.
I don't know who has this control over here right now.
Well, it doesn't want to let me search. I know. While she's pulling that up, I'm going to bring up. I just want you guys to be able to see what we're talking about while we're talking.
Here, you want me to do that? I can.
Oh, mouse. Yes, mouse would be great. Okay, pull up the parcel viewer. So, as everybody's well aware, the fairgrounds transferred to the county, and we are now getting ready to do some work. By we, I mean Parowan City. We're getting ready to do some work immediately north of the parking lot and west of the soccer fields on the part that is, if you've gone there recently, there's a the old track, the horse race starter blocks are there, and some gravel piles and stuff like that. We are getting ready to, what version of the map is that? The only problem with that is you got the overlay of that, but that's fine.
You go to the
Oh,
parcel,
yeah.
just the parcel maybe?
There you go, perfect. Let me see the mouse, and then I'll. Oh, but it's gonna have it grayed out what's inside the city boundaries. That's fine. It's okay.
Turn that off.
So,
Just turn that gray off, Dan.
which one is it?
That's not still there. We cleaned that all up, Dan.
Change it now.
Both doing the same stuff. Okay. Yep. So this is an old version I have on my laptop that I can't show. A new satellite overhead that shows this since all of the improvements were done. But you're probably well aware, of course, I know Marilyn is, all the work that was done. This road right here was raised up quite a bit, which is that berm was put in, which is what diverts all of the sheet flowing water down, and then it runs down along here. What we're getting ready to do is, we have we're working with Todd Robinson, Paragouna City Mayor is doing working on a master plan. As you guys know, he's an architect, so he's donating some of his time. We're doing a master plan for this area for a pickleball facility.
Sorry, Dan.
You're good. for a pickleball facility, and we're getting ready. We have a grant. We're getting ready to start. The area that we want to work on first, where we want to build pickleball courts, is on the south part of this area here. And so, and I went out there with Rich and walked it, kind of talked about my idea of how to, we want to kind of reroute this so that the drainage comes along here before it turns and goes south. Essentially, if you could see this, the road follows the old track kind of down and around, and this berm follows it down and around. And we want to work in this area. That you can see the fence of the city's. The mayor calls it the junk drawer, but this is a city yard that needs. We have some old buildings there. We're going to get in and clean that up. We're going to actually rebuild this fence. We're going to move this eastern boundary of that fence in. I'm not exactly sure how far we're going to move that in, but we're working on the master plan. In any scenario of this plan, it involves us. We're trying to basically maximize the space that we have for what can be used there. So that leads us to a discussion of how to deal with this area, how to treat it, because it's part of that kind of that parking facility. By the way, the lights that were put in, they're almost parallel with this line. Yeah. So, and the other
purpose.
feature that was kind of left over after this was done is you kind of have this. Your road is actually just parallel with 100 North. So sitting about right here is your new uprights, and then it drops
The
off
double one.
probably 10 feet, kind of into this area here that is just sunken down in. It's full of trash and garbage. It's not usable in its current state for the city or for the county, and I think it's just going to continue to collect trash and dirt and stuff like that. So what I would like to do is get in here, and I don't know all of that fill. It probably wasn't all road base, was it?
No, it was pit run. They put some pit run and then road base.
What I would like to do is go in there and scratch back the road base and lower this area here, which is a high berm, and kind of fill in this area a little bit, fill in this, and kind of rebuild it so that the berm kind of goes straight, and then this is going to turn. We're still planning on having this road, and it's not going to be an official road, more of a driveway within the facility, and have the drainage meet in this corner here and still continue on down so that we can utilize this space. We obviously know that we want to have optimized like a road into the place, as this is kind of this collector, right, to grab all of this stuff and come out. We want to be able to tee and come down. In the kind of the preliminary master plan that we've been working with Todd, we have parking. I think he figured that we could put like 80 stalls, 100 stalls on either side of this road. Not perpendicular parking, but angled parking.
That's
And
the drainage, isn't it?
No, on the west side of the drainage. So the
Okay.
drainage goes right down here.
Yes,
We're
yes.
going to have a
You
road
had
that
your
goes right
cursor on
next to it.
there.
Yeah, with drainage that goes. I mean, with parking that goes alongside that road. Of course, we have this agreement that we get to use your parking and you get to use our parking. Whatever little bit of parking that we're going to take out of what is currently here, we'll by more make up for it here in parking alongside of this. But we're just looking to optimize this. This whole lot is really just, it's just sitting there. It's not great utilized space.
That lot drain, will it drain down to that corner?
It's got about somewhere between 10 to 12 feet of fall between the high point right here and the road.
What about down in that pit we're talking about, where you're talking is lower right there?
Here?
From there down to the corner. How much is that fall?
It's pretty flat as you go
What
this
about from
direction,
there-
but
what about from there down to the corner of the soccer field?
yeah, no, it falls. If
falls.
I had Google Earth right here, I could show you. There's a little bit of fall.
They'll drain.
So there's basically a ridge right along here, and on this side of it, it goes that direction, and on the east side of it goes that direction. This is the far eastern boundary of our sewer for that exact reason. This is a Councilman Burton's house. It is not on our sewer. Our sewer is in 300 East, and he can't get into our sewer because it breaks about right in here and flows that direction. So yeah, it does flow this direction. That's, but you're just kind of right on the top of the ridge. If you remember, the drainage of this whole thing used to actually come out to 300 East. And now, since this was changed and that this berm was installed, now it redirects it and comes back this direction. So.
That doesn't show our new recharge basin we built, does it?
No, it's right down here.
Right.
So I think that we can get a good solution. We can get a win-win. I think that the result will be not only and we're looking to be collaborative with this. The grant that we have is a grant that we got from Maria. It's not enough to build the facility that we want to have. So we're building a master plan that will get money through the years from different places. I mean, you could build a lot of pickleball courts here. Who knows how many will be the optimal number of pickleball courts? Right now, we're just looking to build as many as we can with the money we have. But we want the master plan to be able to expand it.
How many did Cedar just build, and how much?
They just built 8.
8. How much did they spend?
And
$1.5 million?
They spent 900 and something thousand, almost $1 million. And that site that they have is actually expandable up to 16. So almost every time you build pickleball courts, you wish you had built more and you want to go back and double it.
I drove by Mesquite last night on my way home from wherever I was. Their complex looks like they've got about 30-ish.
Yeah.
Just driving by, and they were mostly full at 10 o'clock last night.
Wow.
It's a big deal anymore.
It was a bunch of
Lots
silliness.
of pickleball
It's
players.
big.
They were packed.
Jeez.
It's, you know, we were having quite a robust pickleball discussion, and it was a good distraction, but we went sideways and we just dove in head first. There's a pun in the pool project, and we got the pool project completed, and now, you know, there's quite a strong pickleball group in Parowan, and they're pushing the city to get this done, and it's a high priority. We may end up, who knows what. We would like to do some bathrooms. We actually were considering at one point putting in pickleball courts alongside the frontage of this property here. That's when we were doing that pit. Remember, I said let's reserve the frontage of that. Mm-hmm. So we may want to do something with the city. We have now since decided that we're going to put a bike park there. I don't know if you've ever seen any of those pump parks. They have one across from the which high school is that down in Ivans? They have a really cool, it's a dirt, but you use like a dirt cement something mixture, and you make a bike park with these. Anyways, we're doing that. We have a grant here. Snow Canyon. It's just east of Snow Canyon, across the street. It's really cool. We're going to be doing that. You'll see us doing groundwork and grubbing and starting that here pretty soon. And but we ultimately decided not to put pickleball there. One of the main reasons is we would be limited from future expansion. There was a lot of different things that went into both conversations.
So will your road crews do that work right here by the berm, scratch the road base and pit run back?
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. I mean,
yeah, explain that a little more.
At the end of the day, this is, you know, we gotta work together on this. You guys have done all this work, and now we're going to go in and start modifying it. We want to make sure that it still works. I know, and I've talked to Bruce, mainly because one of my concerns is there's a main water line, like an 8-inch water line.
Yes, and that's Parowan.
Yep, that's Parowan's water line.
That was the reason why they only went to right there where the property line is because their water line is on that other side.
It comes, well,
Keep
so
that
the
property.
new water line that, there's a water line that comes down through here, but the main, we have
It
an
went
8-inch
down
water line.
between the two arenas right there.
Back here.
Uh-huh. Yep.
So we have a main that comes off 300, and it actually kind of follows around underneath
It
the track.
does. It
But it's, according to Bruce, it's really deep. He said it was 5 feet deep before the berm went up. And our goal is to not completely eliminate that berm at all, because that berm is definitely designed to channel water. We just need to modify it and channel the water to this corner here before it turns and goes north. We'll probably want to put some sort of a culvert here, so that we can continue to kind of work on having this access that comes along back here.
Behind the arenas, it all drains that way too.
Yeah, it drains right to this corner, right?
Yep.
That's why we chose that. It really didn't naturally go west as it had been forced to.
Yep.
When we looked at the topography, we found the natural place, and that's why it's all shaped the way it is.
Yeah. So how much are you thinking that we're going to have to shave that down?
Well, so if you're going to picture it as shaving it down a little bit, but not much, more straightening it so that it doesn't follow this curve.
It doesn't. It's on our property.
No, it doesn't. It follows this curve.
Yeah, it does.
If, do you got that
We're
picture?
on that? It's not on our
talking
property?
No.
It's not on the county's property?
No.
Are you
Oh.
talking the survey?
Not the survey. The you know what? Without the image that I want to pull up, I can't show.
Originally, it was going to go follow the racetrack, but then it.
So the berm basically follows this almost exactly. It does.
So we got to pull that back
So
because
what I
we're
wanna
off
do
of
is I
that.
want to scratch all the road base back so that it's preserved, and then regrade this. Take some of this and transfer it forward.
And then just
Take
taper
some of
that
it.
down, just
But
blend it
see,
in.
I want to make this usable space too for parking. And in order to do that, we need to bring it up a little
Right.
bit. But I mean, I don't want to bring it up 10 feet. I just want to bring it up a little bit and put road base on that, and just kind of reshape this berm so that it just, there's kind of a natural T here.
And then taper that, and then float that down into the other.
And then just kind of, so it'll kind of berm up and go along in there.
I get that. Okay.
And we have the equipment to do that. We don't have a roller, and when we get it all kind of done, I mean, we may want to have maybe Bruce come in with a grader and a roller just for fine tuning it, but we can do all of the other work in the meantime. And it's going to be a winter project, probably in the next couple of months. Get in there. What I want to do is I want to get the site mostly prepped, get the fence out, get it graded and grubbed, and then we're going to have a pickleball. We're not going to do a general contractor. We have all the design work that we'll have done ourselves with Todd, and then we're just going to hire there's vendors or contractors that's all they do is build pickleball courts. They come in and they'll do like post tension concrete, and I just want to give them the site and say, okay, here's your elevations. Build pickleball here, and just have them put it in the right spot rather than do a full general contract. I don't want to spend $1 million to put in 8. We're going to spend, $200 or more to put in 3 or 4 right now. So, but I wanted to start up by the road.
Yeah, that's what I
and
wondered.
everybody else wanted to start on the south end. The
Is it
advantage
because
of
the noise?
noise, drainage, depending on the master plan, we may end up putting like a rec building down in here at one point. We will probably be
Basketball
going
or
in.
something.
Yeah, basketball, football, indoor pickleball. We're gonna go after some grants. We're gonna. I've got a few things up my sleeve that we're gonna try to look at. We are passing a RAP tax, maybe if it's on the ballot. So we'll have a little bit of funding that we could do bonding. We could, you know what I mean? We could get working with Maria. I'm really hoping that if we had the right facility with the tourism, maybe they would pitch in a little bit. We're going to have some bathrooms to put in here.
Which will help us too.
I'm glad you said that, because by doing all of this, I mean, right now, if you're there and you're parking at the fairgrounds, you're looking at a junk pile.
It'll improve the looks of the whole place.
Yeah. We cleaned up this other portion, and it just looks so beautiful. But
This is kind of the missing.
And we knew that would help to push Parowan along to do that too, because I mean, you want it all to look nice.
Yeah.
It'll be really good for all of them.
Yep, we're going to move what little is left here of actual usable stuff, and then we'll trash the rest and then go in and grub it all out. This is actually a cinder pit here, this black thing.
Yep, yep.
And so we'll relocate the cinders. What's that? Cinder pile.
Pile.
Yeah, not
Yes,
a pit, a
not a
pile.
pit.
And this was actually chips from a road project this was the extra, so we'll probably relocate that. We may end up actually distributing some of that on the property here, but really good ground, and so it's going to be great. It is going to be a really good project to have done, just to have this cleaned up, have the whole thing
Well,
graded and grubbed, and then we'll
the
probably
parking issue that we talked about right when we did the transfer, we share parking. So during the fair, we'll be able to share your parking. The rest of the year, we don't have much going on back there.
Yeah.
And so, you'll be able to park there, and that's going to be really
and having this, maintaining this as a road is another method of egress when you do have a really large event, and having parking that goes all the way down the sides of that.
Yeah, and angle parking's awesome.
We have city soccer rec, and when they're here, they line this road as it is.
Oh yeah.
And so
that'll be nice.
it's just a
You need
natural
more parking.
Yeah, it's a natural thing there. So we just want to continue to develop the site, and we will always be married at the hip at this site, and that's a good thing the way I look at it. So, anyways, yeah, Reed.
I have 3 questions, if I might.
Sure.
Were you planning on talking about your master drainage? I guess my first question is, where
There
does
is a drainage issue.
Yeah, where does this drainage of your project ultimately going?
So I love it when questions lead me to stuff that I want to talk about. Anyways, that's awesome.
Well, we've
So
met on it, and I just wondered,
we have.
I think it'd be good to bring your master drainage line up and your transportation.
So
up.
we have right now with county funds that we got on that grant that I worked on just before I left, and some state funds, city funds, Parowan pumpers. We're doing a big recharge project. That's the word of the day, right? And we're going to divert water. We have to move the farmers' diversion up to this point above the breakwater so that we can prioritize their water shares. Anything that makes it past that can be recharged. So we have a pipeline project planned, which will come down around the bottom of the cemetery. It'll bring water to this point right here. At this point, we have one of 2 options, and that's all the money, probably even more than we have to get piped to that point. At that point, we will either put it in a ditch alongside the road. We're not talking about a lot of CFS. This is just what comes out of the pipe, and which will come down and turn. I have got a verbal permission to come across this private property and do the into the county pit, which we'll work on. We'll need an MOU and all of that. So we're working on that project. The other version of that is that these 2 pieces are owned by Alex Meisner, who is looking to build a development out here. In fact, he started the process, preliminary annexation considerations. If he wants to participate in this, whether he annexes or not, we would probably take that drainage line and come right out to the middle of his property, and then diagonally back here into the pit as well, which would allow the drainage for everything that is south of that line from about right here across, and then on that diagonal, everything that's south of that line that I'm drawing would be able to also be captured, all that new hard surface and everything. And then he would be required to put in the infrastructure, which it's a win-win. One, we were able to capture all of the water that is now hard surface and put it in for recharge. And 2, he doesn't have to have as big of a retention basin to hold all the water from his subdivision. So talked with his engineer, Alex Buckner, about that and proposed that So whether that happens with Alex or not, we do plan on bringing that water, all of the available extra water that comes out of the canyon,
How far
and recharge.
is it piped? Show me.
It's about
past the.
So is that one?
Can I do a multi? Or this just does?
Just either feet or-
You can
So
just
it seems like it's about 1,000 feet of pipe.
You got it on miles.
Well, it's pretty close to a mile.
So we'll get past the fairgrounds.
So it's about a mile. Nope. 0.7 of a mile. No, it would take it to the south side of the fairgrounds. Right here, outside of the, right here to the very corner.
But
So
if-
that won't be an open ditch until you get to there, and then
Right, it would be in
open
pipe
ditch.
to that point, with the goal being it.
Yeah, I like that.
But
pipe
then
it.
Alex would probably pipe it the rest of the way, right?
That's the plan.
So it would
If he incorporates it into his subdivision, we would make him put it in a pipe. But then he could put, in all
other-
his streets, he can do drop basins.
size pipe
inlets.
are you
Yeah.
looking at?
48.
A what?
48.
I thought we were talking,
Minimum.
48 inch? That's
Ooh.
huge. You
I thought
sure?
we're talking 36 is what I was looking at. If you want to kick in some funds, Rich.
Wow.
Well, that was my second part, my second
Oh.
question. Was from the impact of your pickleball area, the first question was, how does it get into the drainage? Because can it go on through? Or is
Yeah,
it
and
gonna
I'll-
go into this ditch?
And I'll show that.
So that's question one, is from this pit project, where does the water go? And then tying into this bigger project, the third question is the city ready to pay an impact fee for drainage going into this new
County.
taking the city's drainage problem that we have?
An impact fee? What impact fee are we talking about? There are no impact fees for drainage.
One we just implemented this
We
morning.
just implemented.
No, actually,
We're tired of taking the city's runoff without charging.
when I was-
It's gonna cost.
when I was on the
Exactly.
when I was at the county, you remember I about got my eyebrows burned off one day when I suggested that we put in an impact fee for storm drain. I won't tell you who it was, but it was one of the meetings after the floods, and I said, we don't have a storm drain enterprise fund, we don't have a storm drain capital facilities plan and an impact fee, and we need to get these things in place. The city also is in the same boat. We don't have any of that stuff. We need to have an impact fee so that new development brings in some money to build some of these things.
Two losers don't make a winner.
No, it's about time we start fixing these things. So right now, are you familiar with the new drainage that was put in right here? So the idea is that we would put an overflow from that and also tie it in as well. Not that I think we'll ever overflow that.
That's a nice size.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't think water has ever made it to the north side of that thing. It sinks so fast once it comes out of the pipe that he put in. It's like a bathtub. It never even makes it out into the middle.
Like our county pit. I'm not kidding you.
It takes water so fast.
We were putting. I mean, it was
A
nuts.
lot. Yeah.
It was like a bathtub. to it.
Where-
See, really, the only water
Jen-
that's gathering is what we call the Gurr subdivision, and then what comes off of the.
And they it comes right into the fairgrounds. It has no.
Yeah, that water used to
flows.
it used
across
to
the
flow
fairgrounds.
across and make it into
fairgrounds.
300 East. By the way, I was reading minutes the other day. We're dealing with a property, not dispute, but we're trying to resolve this whole thing right here. And I was reading old minutes. There used to be a 30-foot flood channel right by 300 East. I've never even seen it or heard of it, but it is in the minutes. They made him set his house back from a 30-foot flood channel. So there used to be some sort of drainage that went down 300 East, and it does still flow pretty good down through here
It
when
does.
you get a good.
But a lot
all
of
of
it
that
comes-
now doesn't go out to 300 East. It now comes back to here and over into this pit.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the reason I said 48 inches was because pennies on the dollar when you're putting it in and you go, man, I wish that were bigger.
Bigger, exactly.
Yeah, but the cost of
Always.
36 to
I get it,
48,
but
whoa.
what we
I don't
paid
think-
for that pipe going across the road, which is a huge pipe, to capture the Gurr and the fairgrounds, it really was literally a difference of several $100s just to go to the larger 5-foot pipe. It wasn't thousands. It was. But we didn't go as far.
didn't
We
go
didn't
a
go a
mile.
half
Yeah,
mile.
that's a long ways.
Yeah. So anyway.
Where is Alex? What is Alex going to do with his sewer?
Well, if he annexes into the city, he is going to
Station?
he is going to put a lift station right here in the corner. He's going to come across through here, and he's going to tie into a line right here on 300 East, and use the cities.
It's big enough. to
Mhm.
take that big of a
Yeah,
development.
this lower leg has capacity for it. And then we're in the middle of updating our master plan and our capital facilities plan for sewer for the treatment with Brian Head right now, and working with the single biggest impact will be the Aspen Meadows, doubling the size of Brian Head and having to contribute into our facilities here, and it's quite complex by the time you're dealing with two different cities and large annexations and who pays for what and impact fees versus having the developer pay on the front end. And anyways, we're going through all of that. And
That's why we're saying the developer
Yeah.
pays on the front end.
definitely.
The county getting into that.
That's right. And by the way,
Dan, when you consider all the runoff from Alex when he gets that development, we might have to build a berm across that pit so that it doesn't. So when Bruce is wanting to use that pit, I don't know. I mean, you know what I mean?
We
I
have
mean,
another piece of
during recharge
property,
time, it's
too.
going to perk fast.
so this is
Just a runoff, it might interfere with a little bit of the operations. Of that
so it's
pit.
pretty much mined out. There is
The
piles
pit
of
is mined
road
out,
base.
pretty much.
It's probably 95%.
Oh, really?
mined out.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, but we have another
But
piece.
you own this
We
piece
own that
here,
piece.
which is
Remember, this is the city saying that, not the county.
yes.
You gotta watch that.
Oh yeah. You just got to
We've
watch.
got that other piece that we can mine out eventually.
Reed's working you pretty good today. Dude.
This piece can be mined out, and to the extent that this is being perked, and this is next door and slightly downhill, like your concerns what happened at Western Rock are valid. If you had this pit, 3/4 of the way full in a really, really wet year, you'd probably start having some artesian wells in the
coming
bottom
up
of this.
underneath. Yep.
So it's definitely something to consider. And this is owned by the city. This piece here is owned by the city. We have a well that sits here, and then this piece is owned by the county.
That's a beautiful thing, having all that recharge right by your well.
Yeah, it is. It is. So, I mean, these are some of the things that are on the that we're working on. There is no large official recharge projects that are new. We are recharging here at the Evans ponds. They call that something else, but it's right by Joyce's house, and that's where our winter water goes and gets recharged. But this year, Little Salt Lake is not a dry lake, and all that water.
I was going to ask how long before heroin impacts make it so we've got to do a Little Salt Lake flood management ordinance.
We probably should.
Property
Same
built
thing.
there.
That's why I brought that up while you were
As full as
talking.
it's
Same
been?
thing.
You think it's as full as it's been for a while?
Oh yeah,
I want to walk it like
it's
we did.
Quichapa all over
Get
again.
Jared some new walking.
Jared-
Get Jared some
New
new hiking
walking
shoes.
shoes.
So there's some interesting things with the Little Salt Lake. First of all, nobody owns it.
Yeah, I was just going to bring that up.
Jared's a jack of all trades, master of all of them, though. He's
Nobody owns what?
Nobody owns it.
The Little Salt Lake.
Oh, really?
Nobody
We've talked about
owns
that.
it.
I talked with the assessor about that, and
So the federal government wants to do.
the county ought to quiet title that property.
If you can, I there's a process that they're talking about doing a cadastral survey of it, and they would assign it to the property owners on either side. The city has interest in acquiring this piece, part of it right here. We would like to build a berm
Sewer.
and have expand our sewer lagoons, which will be a benefit to the entire valley. As this is the bottom of the bathtub, it's the natural place to bring all sewer to, and we're working on that. We've been working with the BLM for some time on acquiring that, but what
BLM doesn't own it.
I know.
That's the problem.
could buy it from
In
the
the county, there's no control like ownership, and if we want to control flood and development out there, the county really ought to acquire that. Quiet title it. do-
Definitely something.
What do we have to do that?
Well,
We probably should do. We probably should.
everybody just said,
I don't know.
it's never happened. So I think that we need to do that.
Pursue it.
See, it's all
Absolutely.
private property all the way around it. Now we're not getting the building that you're getting, but sooner or later it's going to happen. So
Has it got up to any of those homes? Have they had any flooding?
Put enough solar farms around. because the buffer-
just
boy, Reed really is looking to pick a
build some
fight.
high stands and put solar out in the middle of it.
Hey, there you go. Yep.
And I met with Bruce about 2200 and
You almost do that.
culverts there. 'Cause
You're talking 2200 north. Yeah.
That's an issue there. We've had that.
Yep. Anyways, so again, I just want to make sure I'm. No, you're good. It's really good conversation.
Talk about the City View Road too while you're here.
Well, that's what Reed thought I was putting on the agenda, but it isn't. But part of Alex's subdivision, and on the city's master plan is a corridor that goes through here, and we'll save that for another day. But we've got to figure out just kind of this whole area, whether there's an annexation or not. You basically have one road, and it's 200 north right now. So whether it is annexed into the city or whether it is a development that happens in the unincorporated county, traffic is got to be planned for and developed. So anyways, but back to this, I just wanted to be, and I talked with Rich, and he said, you really need to make sure you communicate with the commissioners. This is not my sandbox, but I'll help with figuring drainage or whatever. So anyways, that's kind of the general plan here. I didn't want you guys to be wondering what's going on when you see yellow iron and black smoke in the air. But that was my question. So pit run underneath the road base, that's what's there, huh? Why was it built up so high? Because it used to be almost flat.
Because of the drainage.
No.
I don't know.
It really wasn't built up. There's very little pit run.
Because it was already there because of the
track. The track was
and we
level.
didn't want to have to do.
Actually,
we didn't want to
so
have
we
to
didn't
do
drop any
additional.
elevations.
Yeah, that's true. It is.
Sure about that? Oh, I just looked at it on Google.
that's true. That's got to be true, Dan. I mean,
They wouldn't have been
dipped
running
that track
downhill
down
on
and
that
up back
corner.
up.
They
That
wouldn't
track's
have-
got to be about where it was.
If we dipped that
Unless
down,
they built it
we
up
were
above the track.
concerned
Out to the road, though.
it'd be so much work.
Oh, you're talking from the track edge
The
to the
road?
gates.
Yeah, they built.
There
that.
was some build up
Oh, yeah,
there. Yeah.
of course.
And Dan and I have both talked, we could add some parking when they clean up. Well, now that Reed's gone, what I heard this last week is the Wyoming state flag out there. Do you know what that is?
So it used
No.
to be pretty flat.
All those thin bags from the shopping centers. I guess apparently all across Wyoming along the fences, all you see is the Wyoming state
Wyoming.
flag. little disposable
Shopping bag.
So now when you come to this, as you come to this, it comes up quite a bit. I think it was to match the level of the track, and the track was way out here. So you built that whole road from the track all the way
But we
out.
had a lot of material from
Right.
over on the other part too
Pushed.
that we pushed up.
You
Yeah.
remember those big piles?
Oh, is
Yes.
that what happened? That
They
makes sense.
disappeared.
And they're like, what are we going to do with all that? Plus to match the track, to get
Yeah.
over to the track.
I'm just saying this whole area has been brought up 5, 8 feet.
Well, it was because of the track was so much higher.
Well, you can tell how much has been risen because now you walk down into a hole here.
Yeah.
From what was there. So, anyways. Okay.
Hey, sounds good. Do what you got to do.
Okay. Well, we'll.
Do we need to vote on it?
No, I mean
Let's
it's.
say-
I think so.
We're just working on our own property, but
Yeah.
it's definitely going to affect you, and so I wanted to affect you. So I wanted you to be aware, and so we can work together on it. So.
Sounds good. Thanks, Dan.
Thanks, Dan.
6, Resolution 2023-15, appointing a representative and an alternate representative for the annual Utah County's Indemnity Pool USIP annual meeting to be held November 15th, 2023.
Does John usually?
John has.
He's not here to defend himself.
I'd say we ought.
Let's do
Well,
it.
I told him that he probably shouldn't be doing it because. Never mind, I'm not going there.
Do you want to do it?
No. I'm not official.
So why shouldn't he do it?
I didn't think he would be going to the meetings this year because they're November 15th.
Oh, because of the
Oh, he
election.
doesn't have.
Election.
Yeah.
He doesn't have. That's right.
But
He,
That's
he
because
did say
elections.
He would still be doing it because he is the president for the clerk auditor group, so he will still be attending.
He'll be
so,
there anyway.
Yeah.
Okay.
All
We
right.
can give her.
Same as
We
is
can throw
2020
him under the bus.
2023 is
He's
the
not
same.
here.
Okay. Motion.
So do we have to do who's the alternate?
I think it's usually Jen.
Jennifer Bradbury.
Great.
Great.
Okay. Oh, wait a minute. Okay. I'll move to approve Resolution 2023-15, appointing a representative and an alternate representative for the annual Utah County's Indemnity Pool USIP annual meeting to be held November 15th, 2023. The representative being our clerk, John Whitaker, and our alternate being our HR director, Jennifer Bradbury.
Second.
Been moved and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So just tell them JJ will be there. John and Jen. Let's see. So now we'll convene as the Board of Equalization. Review and approval of a veteran circuit breaker, low income, and blind tax abatements for the 2023 tax year effective October 9th, 2023.
You're up.
Teresa?
Come on down.
How do you say your first name again?
It's Cherisha.
Cherisha. I'm sorry.
I know. I can't.
Good. Thank you.
Great. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, hon.
So there is on the backside of your first page the totals, and then there's also another copy that has a circuit breaker and mobile circuit breaker highlighted. So the totals for this year, the blind abatement, there's 14. The abated value is $161,001. The circuit breaker, there's 331. The abated value is $27,688,225. For the county, we have, or the indigent, we have 259. The abated value is $16,634,772. The market circuit breaker is there's 288. The abated value is $18,719,679. The mobile circuit breaker, there's 11, and that's 46,342. I apologize, I read that wrong. Mobile market circuit breaker, there's 1, that's 403. Mobile veteran, there's 4 at 78,783. Veteran, there's 660, and the abated value is $130,659,798. For a total in all tax areas, $193,989,003.
How does this compare with previous years?
It has gone up because of the market values of homes. They've all gone up.
So
Tax
mostly
rates-
market value, not numbers per se? Or has the numbers changed a lot? Or
I guess, what do you mean?
Amount of people.
like amount of
Amount of people.
count? The count.
The count has gone up. I want to say this year alone, we've probably done at least 20 more veterans, probably 25, 30 more circuit breakers, stuff like that.
Okay.
I apologize, I didn't bring those with
That's okay.
those
That's
exact
okay.
numbers.
No
But
worries.
and then the circuit on the highlighted page, there's the circuit breaker amount and the mobile circuit breaker amount, and those will be, I believe, reimbursed by the state. So it would be the $216,725.37. And I think that's it.
Any questions on that?
No.
Okay. All right.
Question?
Yep.
I would move for approval of the veteran circuit breaker, low income, and blind tax abatement for 2023 tax year, effective October 9th, 2023, as outlined by Ms. Lister.
I will second that.
Moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Thank you very much.
Thank you, guys.
We'll now reconvene as Iron County Commission and go to non-delegated items. Do we have any county boards?
I don't.
So-
all of them I'm involved in are good.
All right. If that's, looks like that's it. So we'll declare this meeting adjourned. Thank you.
It's going to be short.
Oh, I thought it'd be a short one today. That's my fault.